30A, Section 21, to discuss reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second Chase's motion.
Okay. Jamie, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
Chase? Ian?
Yes.
Okay. You lost Jeff.
Anybody's making sure it's off?
I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yes. Guys are always louder. Welcome to the continuation of the September 7th Board of Selectmen's meeting. On the rest of the agenda, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, public service announcements, moment of silence. 6:35, we have a public hearing, National Grid poll petition to install one JO pole on Putnam Road. 6:40, we have a public hearing allocating the local property tax levy among classes of real property and personal property for fiscal 2022. 6:45, we have a public hearing on the senior center feasibility study. Then we have a presentation about crumbling foundations, town administrator's report. Action items, we have consideration and action on a special permit for the Oxtrot Road Race for OSV Academy. Consideration and action on adding 37 and 39 Westwood Drive to the sewer connection reserve list, Consideration and possible action on the confirmation of appointment of Jennifer Scherer to the Trails Committee. Consideration and action on a one-day liquor license for Hardwick Winery. Consideration and possible action on a one-day liquor license for Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. Item F, we're putting on hold. Then we have consideration and action on the acceptance and authorization for the use of a donation to the Sturbridge Fire Department. Consideration and action on the confirmation of the appointment of Mark Whiting as full-time dispatcher with the Sturbridge Police Department. Consideration and action on the selection of ACD Telecom as a consultant to the Radio Communication Committee. Consideration and possible action on the appointment of Jeff Bridges as municipal hearing officer. Consideration and possible action on the acceptance and authorization for use of a donation to the Town of Sturbridge Veterans Department. Consideration and possible action on the rejection of the bids for the Riverlands Flow Trails project. Old business, we have an update on the COVID, new business, correspondence, approval of minutes of August 16th, and then citizens forum, and then we will adjourn. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, public service announcement. Jamie, do you have any?
No, I do not.
Mary?
No.
Chase?
I have none.
Ian? Okay. Could we please have a moment of silence for all those affected by COVID and also for the 13 military and all others killed or wounded in Afghanistan? Okay, thank you. Okay, 6:35, public hearing. Chase, do you have the notice?
Yep. National Grid has made a petition to the Sturbridge Board of Selectmen to install one pole on Putnam Road beginning at the point approximately 550 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Putnam Road and Podunk Road and install one new mid-span pole. National Grid also requests permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways. The poll hearing will take place on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 at 6:35 PM at the Sturbridge Town Hall, second floor, Veterans Memorial Hall located at 308 Main Street, Sturbridge, Mass. 01566.
Okay, I do know we do have a representative from National Grid. Could you please come forward?
Hello.
Hello. Do you want to just give an explanation, please?
Yes, that, what you read, that's basically what is in all the templates. But what we're going to do is, we are requesting is that a pole be put on Putnam Road, pole 4-50, in between pole 5 and pole 4 for a new residential customer.
Can you get your name, please, for the record?
My name is Kim Tabalai-Mola.
Could you spell that, please?
T as in Tom, A, V as in Victor, A, L, L, A, I, M as in Mary, O, L, A. It's not the first time I've been asked.
Sure, thank you. Okay, does anybody on the board have a question? It's pretty clear, cut and dry. Okay, it is a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience have a question on the poll placement? Okay, could you please come forward?
Oh, we can't hear a thing.
Oh, well, people,
I don't even know what she said.
oh, well, people, oh, that's okay. People will have to speak louder. These microphones are actually for the audience at home, not here.
Okay.
So everyone will have to make an effort to vocalize a little louder.
Maybe she could repeat what she just said more loudly.
Sure.
Thank you.
We're going to install a pole, it's pole 4-50 between pole 5 and pole 4 on Putnam Road, because there's a new residential customer across the street. We need an additional pole, which is in line with the pole line, because we cannot travel over other people's properties. That would be an aerial trespass. So I'm here tonight requesting we have permission to install a pole between poles 4 and 5.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from the board? No one in the public? Could we have a motion then to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Okay, you're all set.
Is it approved?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
No, that was the close.
We've closed the public hearing, we have to vote on the approval.
Okay, so sit down.
Well, no, that'll take a minute, not even. Okay, is there a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion, all in favor? I know why I always start up.
Get out of the way early.
Cut the time.
All set.
down. You're all set now.
Thank you very much.
Available chair right here.
There's also one over there. Okay, we have a minute. Okay, if the audience is wondering why we're pausing, we can't start a public hearing earlier than the posted time. We can start it later, but not earlier.
Say hello early, though.
Aye. Okay, I have 6:40. Chase, do you want to read the public notice, please?
Yep. All right. In accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 56, the Board of Selectmen, together with the Board of Assessors, will hold a public hearing on allocating the local property tax levy among the classes of real property and personal property for fiscal year 2022. This hearing will take place on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, at 6:40 PM at the Sturbridge Town Hall, second floor, Veterans Memorial Hall, located at 308 Main Street, Sturbridge, Mass. 01566.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
This is Ann Murphy, our Chief Assessor, and her board. Would you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Ann Murphy.
Paula Murphy, Chair of the Board of Assessors.
Maura McGrath, Board of Assessors.
So I understand that you have a very large agenda tonight, so if you'd like, instead of me reading the screens verbatim, I can just kind of condense it down.
Whatever pleases you.
Okay, and
Because we do have two new members that I may want a little more.
I did this already.
okay.
I did this already.
Or you can
Yeah,
stop
no,
me during it, if you have questions during it, or at the end, whichever you guys prefer. Okay, so this is for the fiscal year 2022 classification hearing. The Board of Selectmen will be voting on 4 different issues. One is the selection of a SIP factor, and the SIP stands for Commercial, Industrial, and Personal Property. Be also voting on an open space discount, residential exemption, and small commercial exemption. And just so you know that the tax rate in this presentation is proposed. So the difference in tax amounts from fiscal '21 to fiscal '22, the tax rate was $19.02, it's going to $19.27 proposed, which is an increase of about 25 cents per thousand. So on an average, a house that was valued at $264,300 last year is now valued at $286,300 this year, with an increase of taxes of $490. Voting on the SIP factor is you would be shifting the tax burden from the residential onto the commercial, industrial, and personal properties. In the state of Massachusetts, 91 towns have a higher SIP value than Sturbridge, and of those 91, only 84 chose to do a split rate last year. So currently, the rate was $19.02. We're now proposing a rate of $19.27. If you were to split that rate at a 1.05%, the residential rate would drop to $19.09. Commercial would go up to $20.24. And if you went to a 1.10%, the residential would drop again to $18.91, and the commercial would rise to $21.20. So an example of that is a residential and commercial property valued at $341,829. With the 1.05 rate, the residential would drop about $61. The commercial property would go up about $331. And if you went with the 1.110 rate, the residential property would drop about $150, and the commercial property would rise about $659. So it reduces the taxes for residential and open space, but it increases the taxes on mixed-use properties, commercial and industrials, and the personal property tax. Most people that pay a personal property tax also have a business in town, because that's what the personal property tax is on. So they're already paying two types of taxes. We have 4,231 residential open space properties, and we have 787 commercial, industrial, and personal properties. So that would be the first item that you would vote on. The next item is the open space discount. You can shift up to 25% on property that is classified as open space. Currently, the only property classified as open space in Sturbridge is our chapter land, and they are already receiving at least a 25% or lower of fair market value. So if a person had 10 acres of land in a if a person had 10 acres of land at the regular rate, they would pay $675 in taxes. If they were in the forestry program, they would only be paying $18.31 in taxes. If they were in a farming property, they would be paying about $33 in taxes. And if they were in recreation, they would be paying about $168 in taxes. So you can see that they're already getting a substantial tax break by being in chapter land. So that's the second one. The third item that you'll be voting on is the residential discount. The selectmen can grant up to 35% discount to owner-occupied residential properties. The exclusions are the vacant residential land, seasonal and second homes, and residential properties not occupied as a primary residence by the owner, which would include rental homes, apartments, mixed use. This discount would only shift the tax rate within the residential class. It does not impact the commercial, industrial, or personal properties. The highest you could go is 35%. If you were to do that exemption, it would be $103,475. And it would also change the tax rate from 1927 to 2638. So an example of that at work, a qualified property of $341,829, with the exemption, their taxes would decrease about $300. The unqualified property of the same value, their taxes would increase $2,430. I gave an example of a 15% tax rate impact. The exemption would be a lower exemption amount of $44,346, and the new tax rate would be $2179. So again, using that value of $341,829, the qualified property would see a decrease in their taxes of about $105, and the unqualified property would see an increase in taxes of about $860. If you were to adopt the 35% residential exemption, 1,009 properties in Sturbridge would see a decrease in taxes. 3,120 properties would see an increase in their taxes. If you went with a 15% residential exemption, 2,249 properties would see a decrease in real estate taxes, and 1,880 properties would see an increase in their real estate taxes. And the last item that you'll be voting on is a small commercial exemption. You can decide to exempt up to 10% of the value of commercial properties that qualify. Only commercial properties are eligible for this. However, the industrial properties are impacted by it. The property must be occupied by the business as of January 1 of 2021, but it does not have to be owner occupied. So if a person owns property and he's leasing out space to other businesses, it's the person who owns the property that gets the exemption, not the small businesses. We get a report from the Department of Labor and Workforce of the businesses in town that may qualify for the exemption. The total valuation of that is $20,273,950. And a 10% shift would increase the tax rate for the commercial, industrial, and personal properties up 23 cents per thousand. So an example of that at work is Business A qualifies for it. The value is $761,685 of that business. They'd get the 10% exemption of $76,169, and with the adjusted tax rate, they would see a decrease in taxes of $1,117. Business B that does not qualify of the same value would see an increase of about $370 in taxes. Again, only the commercial properties can qualify, but the industrial properties tax rate would change as well. Our commercial properties account for 9.55% of our levy, and the industrial properties account for 2.22% of our levy. And the Board of Assessors took a vote at their meeting earlier this evening, and they would recommend that the Board of Selectmen vote to adopt a single tax rate, that they would vote not to adopt the open space discount, vote not to adopt the residential exemption, and vote not to adopt the small commercial exemption. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to
Okay,
answer them.
thank you, Ann. I was wondering, sometimes you have your meeting well before our meeting, and we have your recommendation earlier, but,
Right, we tried to.
okay, questions from the board? Comments? Mary?
And just because there's so many people here to benefit from this classification hearing, could you just go over what the SIP factor is?
Okay, the SIP factor is, we have 4 types of properties in Sturbridge. You have your residential, actually 5 types. You have residential properties, open space properties, commercial properties, industrial properties, and personal properties. So the SIP is just an acronym for commercial, industrial, and personal property. So when you're talking about shifting tax rates, you can only, you split it between the residential and the commercial, industrial, personal property. So they would have to pick up the burden of, they would get the higher end of the tax rate, where the residentials would get a break on the tax rate. We only have 12%. You're asking 84% of the levy get a lower tax rate, and 12% pick up the burden of that. That's why a split tax rate doesn't normally work in a town like Sturbridge. We just don't have enough commercial properties to bear that burden. We would put businesses out. It usually works better in towns like, actually I have kind of a list of the towns that do it. Barnstable, Boston, Cambridge, Provincetown, Wellfleet, Watertown, all the bigger communities that do that. So that's what our SIP rate is.
Okay. Anything from the board? It is a public hearing. Any questions or comments from the audience?
What consists of open space?
Leslie, the mic.
Leslie, oh, this doesn't work. Leslie 130 Westwood Drive. What consists of open space?
Well, currently in Sturbridge, open space is our chapter land programs.
Okay.
So that is anybody who is in the forestry program, agricultural, horticultural, or recreational land.
Okay.
And people, they file an application every year with us. We put a lien on their property. If they sell it, we can do rollback taxes, things like that. But it does give them a break on their properties.
Okay, good, thank you.
That was for the people at home.
Oh, sorry.
We can hear you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, is there a motion then to close the public hearing?
Well, you have to take your vote on,
Oh, we have to vote after.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
I will move to close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing? Okay, now, we need 4 votes. We need a vote on the single tax rate as suggested by the assessors to vote and adopt a single tax rate. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the single tax rate.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, we need a motion to vote not to adopt the open space discount.
I'll move not to adopt the open space discount.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Okay, we need a motion to vote not to adopt the residential exemption.
I'll make a motion not to adopt the residential exemption.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Okay, we need a motion to vote not to adopt the small commercial exemption.
I will move not to adopt the small commercial exemption.
I'll second that. Keep it uniform. Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Discussion?
I just have one, I just want to, I just asked one question on this one. So with a strip mall of a lot of small businesses,
Right,
but the owner obviously is maybe not a small business if
right.
he or
But
she or
he
the
would
corp.
get the exemption.
Okay, and whether or not it would get passed on in some kind of break to the individuals,
That would-
we don't know.
Right, that would be entirely up to the owner.
Okay.
But it's the owner of the property that he gets the tax bill, he gets the break.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion? Okay, thank you.
Okay. so I
We,
have the-
Madam,
We
A
still,
lot of work.
we do have
into that.
a
We know.
discussion about the amount of the use of
Use-
opera funds. Now, we could wait till later in the meeting to get the other public hearing out of the way and then come back to that, or you can have that now.
why don't we do it now?
Okay,
Okay. Because Barbara's here.
okay.
Where do I sign it? Anywhere on this line?
Thank you.
Okay, this is Barbara Barry, our Finance Director. Good evening, Barbara.
How are you?
Good, I think.
That's good.
If I just give a lead in. When we put the budget together, we had a conversation about the federal funds that we expected to flow into the local units of government across the country. And when we put the budget together and went to town meeting in June, there was an assumption made at the time to close the revenue gap created by the loss of revenue from certain industries due to COVID. So we're here tonight to complete that process and actually allocate X amount of dollars from the ARPA funds to the FY22 budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So just a quick overview, just some highlights from the memo that I had submitted to the board. As of right now, we have received $1,434,000 from the ARPA funds. This represents the town and the county allocations. We get 2 tranches of those distributions, so we will receive the second half starting in June of 2022. And then the county funds a little thereafter. One of the things that we have to do in order to figure out what our revenue loss is there's a methodology that is provided to us, and it allows us to use 4.1% for revenue growth. And so based on that, our revenue loss is calculated at a little over 1.5 million. Sturbridge's revenue growth from fiscal 19 to 20, which is the years that we're comparing because we're looking at the pre-COVID revenue numbers, is about 2.16%. So we would not recommend that you go to the amount that is calculated based on the methodology that is provided, because that is not indicative of the trend in Sturbridge. So as we prepared the budget, the estimated budget deficit was about $850,000. As we progressed to town meeting, there was 2 articles that did not move forward in the warrant, which put our deficit estimated to about $631,000. As we move through the process, as we're preparing the budget, all those numbers there's a lot of unknowns because we don't know what new growth is going to be, we don't know the assessed value of the town, we don't know what state aid figures are going to be. So as we're pulling everything together, as we get closer to setting the tax rate, our deficit right now is $459,810. So if you look at the second page of the memo that I sent, we are looking at our revenue loss due to the pandemic is estimated to be between $800,000 and $900,000 based on what we know right now. Now, everything with revenue through the course of the year progresses, okay? Because what we think is going to happen today isn't what we're going to have happen when we get to June 30th. So there's a few different scenarios that I've provided to you. One that I just want to point out is, as we set the tax rate, because there's been a large swing in property values, the average single-family home value in fiscal '21 was a little over $314,000. The values based on setting the tax rate for fiscal '22, that value of that same home is now $341,829, which is a difference of almost $28,000. If the tax rate was to stay the same, which is not what is going to happen, but just for comparison purposes, that property based, the average single-family home value, that bill would go up $525 just based on the increase in the assessed valuation. And, that increase is no different than what's happening all over the state and probably the country, as far as we know that there are bidding wars for homes. Homes that go on the market don't stay on the market very long, and so that all affects the assessed values that the assessors have to get certified by the Department of Revenue. So now, the second analysis would be the use of the $459,810 of ARPA funds, which would close the budget gap. And that would result in, again, based on the average single-family home value, the tax rate is estimated to go to $19.27, and that same property would see an increase of $611 in their taxes. The next analysis of a tax bill shows you using $632,000 of ARPA funds. That would result, again, same, every one of these is the same comparison. That would result in $570 increase in a tax rate estimated to be $19.15. And then the last was an analysis of a tax bill based on the use of $800,000 in ARPA funds. That would be an estimated tax rate of $19.04, and difference in the tax bill, again, the same single-family home, value of $532. So, based on what we were looking at when we set the budget, we thought that we would close the budget gap with the ARPA funds. That would put you at either the second example on my memo of the $459,810, or if you extrapolate out the number that we knew, that $858,527, which is the number you actually saw in your budget books, and extrapolate that out, the number would be $632,000. So Jeff and I feel comfortable at the $632,000 figure for the ARPA funds. And that's what our recommendation is.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Jamie?
Oh, go ahead. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so is that 600, the difference between the 459,000 and the 632,000, so the ARPA money, we're assuming sort of static growth in like the meals tax, the hotel tax, that we're going to maintain what we project, and there's not.
Right, the 459 equates to what we've been calling the natural tax rate.
Right.
If we use the expenditures we anticipated at town meeting and just close that gap, it would be 459, and the tax rate would be 1927.
Okay.
So that we're considering the natural tax rate.
Sure.
Based upon the budget as we put it together. The 632 is a function of the original amount of ARPA funds we anticipated, and you factor in some of the growth factors and the two warrant articles that equal about 227 not being in the expenditure appropriation, right? And that's the 632, but that gets you to a tax rate of 1915. So if you go too high, you've dug a hole, you've got to dig yourself out of the following year. If you go too low, then your tax rate kind of rises a little bit more than maybe you want. So we're comfortable with the 632 number. That way, we're not digging a hole and the taxes aren't really escalating. We were fortunate enough, and we used a bunch of reserves and free cash in fiscal '21 to keep the tax rate at 1902. But now we're faced with those increasing values, and we're looking at the end of federal aid, not this year, but the following fiscal year, and we kind of wean ourselves off these either excessive uses of reserves and outside funds to balance the budget. We kind of start having to look at multi-year looks, so we get back to local revenues to balance the budget without heavy use of reserves.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Mary?
I just want to understand, in the classification presentation, you used the 1927, what Jeff just deemed the natural tax rate, the deficit of 459.
Yes.
So if we go to the 632, the taxes will be a little bit less.
Correct.
By that difference of the 570, 611, like $40. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a lot, but.
Right, because the tax
Okay.
rate changed from 1902 to 1915 instead of 1927, so. you're talking of a 13 cents increase per thousand instead of a 25 cent. So about half.
Yep. Well, the 1927 says a difference of the tax amount of $611.
No, I meant half of the tax rate.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, okay. I wasn't
I
following.
was half of
Yeah,
it.
no, I was like, no, wait, that's not right. Okay, so it's a little bit better than the rate that you used for
Range,
the,
but every bit.
Right.
Every bit.
And so not knowing what scenario you would decide on tonight, we wanted to show you just by plugging our deficit, our revenue deficit to balance the budget. That's the number that Ann used.
And it shows that even if you kept the tax rate static, which would require kind of a high-level use of those ARPA funds, due to the valuation growth, the taxes are still going up over $500. So the fractional tax rate of 25 cents, 1902 to 1927, adds like $100.
Right.
But the real impact is going to be from the valuation increases.
so
You
is,
can kind of diminish some of that by using the 632, offsets about $50 of that,
Right.
but you're not digging a hole.
got it. And so so we got 1.4 so far, 1.4 million. And if we use 600,000 roughly, we have $800,000 left of discretionary ARPA money.
Yeah,
Am I-
other.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It is.
Yeah,
It
okay.
opens up a lot of doors.
Right, okay.
Okay, anything else from the board? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion then?
Sure, I will move, let's see if I can do this correctly.
Well, just to,
I'm going to go with scenario 2, the 632,000. So I would say that we move to utilize the 632,000 of ARPA funds to, how do I want to say this?
Balance.
So, yeah, balance the,
Well, towards setting the tax rate.
towards setting the tax rate in the fiscal year, what is it, 2022?
Correct.
Yeah, in fiscal year 2022.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ann.
Thank you. Thank you for taking me.
Well,
No, thank you.
I know,
Very
Jeff
helpful.
would have had you here till 12.
I'm going to be here.
No, nobody's going to be here at that hour. Trust me.
Okay.
Okay, so we are a little behind, but
The main event.
quite all right. Next, we have a public hearing for the senior center feasibility study. Chase?
Yep. Notice of a public hearing, Town of Sturbridge Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Sturbridge will be holding a public hearing regarding the Sturbridge Senior Center feasibility study. The public hearing will be held Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, at 6:45 PM. The hearing will be held in Veterans Hall located at the Town Hall, Town of Sturbridge, 308 Main Street. The Sturbridge Senior Center feasibility study can be reviewed at sturbridge.gov/facilities/pages/senior center feasibility. In the event you are not able to attend the meeting but would like to submit comments, comments can be mailed to Board of Selectmen, 308 Main Street, Sturbridge, Mass. 01566, Senior Center Feasibility Study, or email at publiccomment@sturbridge.gov.
Okay, thank you, Chase. Before we begin, I just want to say, I know this is a hot topic for everyone, considering both sites. We have received a lot of input. The board has a lot of information we have gotten to study. I do appreciate the input, however, some of it is erroneous. Perfect example would be, there's at least 4 letters that address a parking garage. There is no parking garage proposed or being built. Some of the concerns are very valid, and the board sympathizes. We will listen to all the information that we need, and we will make the best judgment that we can for the town. Okay, who would like to begin? Robin?
Mary, if you don't mind, there's room for the people who are outside. If you want to stand along the wall on this side to see the presentation, there's room to come on in.
There's
We
one.
have a lot of
Is
people
it-
out in the hallway and the stairway yet. So,
There's room along the side behind you too. Behind you as well.
yeah, I can check Chris's.
I think there are any chairs.
Get everybody?
Let's see, is it cold?
What's that?
And you can stand in front of that door as well. Thank you, Mary. For those of you who don't know me, I am Robin Schrabis, the town facilities manager. I was working with the Senior Center Study Committee during the feasibility study for the senior center. Next. The senior center had been working for 7 or so years, since 2015, when their committee was formed. Next. Jeff?
I did.
Okay. One more, there you go.
Okay.
So they started out by doing a program analysis of the offerings of the center and determined that they needed additional 5,000 square feet of facility space. They spent the last 7 years working on finding either a space or a way to add on or whatever, and we ended up with the feasibility study and hiring BHA architects. Next. This is an example of the list of rooms and spaces that says that the Council on Aging program spaces require 12,500 square feet of space, which again is 5,000 square feet more than the current facility. The committee hired an architect team headed by Bargman, Hendry, an archetype, and Joel Bargman is here with us tonight. And also with us is the civil engineer for the project, for the feasibility, Lance Hill from PAR Corporation.
Thank you, Robin. Joel Bargman, BH+A. The previous slide talked about the program spaces, and you'll notice in that as we get to the plan, one of the rooms is a multi-purpose room that has 3 divisible rooms. The point is that you can't be setting up and taking down every room at any point in time, so there's overlap between the spaces. You can see in that space, for example, here there can be dining on one side, and then you can set up on the other side of the room for your dance or aerobics class, so you don't have the conflicts that we showed in the previous slide from another senior center. If I can go back, this is the existing building. Part of the feasibility study, we did an existing exhaustive analysis of your conditions, handicapped access, hazardous materials. The 2 issues on this are, as Robin said, there's a shortage of space, so we would have had to add on, we do have to add on 5,000 square feet to bring this building up to program. The basement, the area below grade is not usable because the ceiling height is inadequate to meet the building code. In fact, it hits my head on it. And there's no outdoor space for that existing building. We designed 2 sets of senior center plans. One was for the existing building. The red line to the bottom of that is your existing building. To the top of that shows the addition, and that major multi-purpose room on the top is the room I was pointing out is divisible, so you can have multiple robust programs going on in the center. This building is on 2 levels. Next plan. On the upper floor is the exercise and Tai Chi yoga room. Underneath that is the multi-purpose room and the kitchen, but you do have a 2-story program because the existing building's 2 stories. The alternative plan is an all-new building. It's a 12,000 square foot building. The rooms are identical in the two buildings, so you don't really have to think, I like this scheme better because it has this program or that program. All the square footages are the same. To the center and left are your program spaces, all clearly identifiable from the lobby and the reception. To the right side of the plan are your administrative spaces and your consultation spaces, meeting rooms, and more private spaces. This is a one-level plan, and it enters on the bottom side, and it exits out to the outdoor space that's available on both sites we looked at on the top side of the plan. Let me turn it over to Lance to talk about the site evaluation.
Lance Hill, I'm with Power Corporation. Thank you. Next slide. We were given, as part of this, we were given three specific sites to take a look at. One was 480 Main Street, which is the existing site, and two other sites located around town. It's a little hard to see on this plan up here, but if you look closely, you'll see three red dots. The first red dot is 480 Main Street. The second is 70 Cedar Street is the address, and the third is 80 Haynes Street. What we were asked to look at is, do these sites technically fit the program space that is contemplated for this? When we take a look at this, we look at a number of factors here. You can see some of the factors up here: parking capacity, egress, how you get coming to and from the site, what permitting is required, soil conditions, and we look at all of these specific to each individual site. What I can say from a zoning perspective, all three of the sites can technically accommodate the building program. So then we dive in a little bit more about the specific program itself and how the layout of the sites are going to be. One more slide here just showing some of the applicable codes. We really do a lot of due diligence when we're looking at these types of feasibility studies. And you know, we want to make sure that these sites will technically be capable of supporting the development on the site. We ran through a preliminary traffic study for each of the sites. What we determined was that for the program as currently designed, the proposed program, the peak demand could be up to 88 spaces. So that's where we started. Can we get up to 88 spaces on each one of the sites? And we'll take a look at it from there. Some other factors that came out of there, you know, are there acceptable site distances? Can you see up and down the road on each site? And one point that we'll make here, that the other two sites are located a little further away from downtown. Main Street is closest here, and the existing site, it has pedestrian accommodations, and the other two don't currently. So this slide shows a little bit of a precursor to what we're going to talk about here. Some pros and cons, some comparison points for each of the sites. 480 Main Street, as I mentioned, it's the best location for proximity to downtown and pedestrian and bicycle friendly. The Elder Bus currently services the site. Obviously, the Elder Bus does not service the other two sites because they're not in existence here, but I am assured that that can be accommodated at each of the sites moving forward. 480 Main Street has difficulty expanding. You're obviously limited by the building itself and by the property lines, so you've got some difficulty in trying to meet some of the program. And one big issue with 480 Main Street that the team identified was that if you're repurposing that site, if you're rebuilding that building, you can't maintain current operations. So you're going to have to locate elsewhere while you're doing the construction in the building, adding the addition on, doing the interior spaces. 70 Cedar Street doesn't have pedestrian accommodation. It's got a curving roadway that may be slightly challenging for the Elder Bus. We have heard through this process from some of the residents there that had some concerns with the roadway itself. It does have, in my opinion, adequate site distances there, but if you move forward with this site down the road, you're going to have to implement some additional mitigation measures with some signage and some other things. Currently at 480 Main Street, they use the site today, and then they have adjacent properties that they can utilize for overflow parking for larger events. Obviously, 70 Cedar Street does not have that closely nearby without some of the other projects that may be coming down. So, you know, if that site was moved forward, that would have to be contemplated. What size, how do you size the parking lot specifically to its needs? Because you're not going to have that ability potentially for overflow. Same with 80 Main Street, 80 Haynes Street. It also is kind of a site that's a little bit more isolated from the rest of them. It's along Route 15, currently just south of here. What we noticed about this particular site is that the speeds along the road are quite high. The volume's a little bit low, which is good for a senior center, but the speeds of the traffic seem to be a little bit higher, which can be a concern for senior center traffic. It is a large property and it allows for ample parking. It allows for the program space that we're talking about, plus it allows for some expansion if needed or if, that was to come out of a more final design. And both 70 Cedar Street and 80 Haynes Street, just one more point to talk about, is that both of those two sites could be constructed without interfering with the current operations at the senior center site. So I want to start here with the existing site here. I do want to preface that, these are very conceptual drawings. The level of detail was specific to a feasibility study. If this site were to advance to the next level, it still needs to go through several more rounds of permitting. Obviously, it needs to go through, a planning review, a site plan review, and those things that will refine those details. But, what we were charged with is taking a look at, can the site technically fit what the program is? As I mentioned a bit earlier, the existing program said that up to about 88 spaces would be required for the building. We took a look at that and said, can 88 spaces fit on this building? So we maximized the parking around the proposed building, and what we were able to come up with is that you can get 66 parking spaces here. So not quite the 88, but that is the maximum that we feel comfortable that you can get on the site right now. I bring that up specifically because when we look at the next two sites, we were looking at an apples-to-apples comparison for the cost portion of it. We didn't want this site to show 66 spaces and the next two sites to show 88 spaces because that would give you a difference in cost there. So on this plan here, this is a overlay on top of the existing aerial. You can see how it expands out to the property line. All the gray on here would be proposed asphalt. The yellow in the center there would be the existing building, and the orange color would be the proposed addition at this time. A couple of things to do. The existing entrance on 480 Main Street's a little bit confusing. There's a one-way arrow when you come in there. So you're not really sure when you're coming into the site whether or not that's the appropriate side. So when we looked at a conceptual layout, what this allows us to do is have two separate, one in and one out. The in would be currently where the entrance is. The exit could potentially be pushed a little further to the north to allow a little bit better circulation. It also brings traffic a little further away from Route 20. What we did here through this process was that taking a left turn off of Arnold onto Route 20 can be a bit of a challenge, especially during rush hour traffic. One other thing to point out here, this proposed development pushes closer to Route 20. It does still have plenty of offset off of Route 20 to be comfortable there. However, there's a significant existing grade change between the existing parking lot and Route 20. What this would entail here is, we want that parking lot to be as flat as possible, especially for seniors in the winter time. We want to make sure that, they're not causing a slip and fall or a tripping hazard. So if it's as flat as possible and it's being put over a pretty steep grade drop, what that would mean at the front of the side or on the Route 20 side is a fairly sizable 5 to 6 foot high retaining wall to hold up the parking lot over there. The next site we'll talk about quickly here is 80 Haynes Road, Route 15. You can see here the red box there. A little tough to tell here, but it shows approximately where the parking is. And, it's a pretty good example here that you can see the two purplish colored lines there are the actual roadway, and there's a pretty significant distance between the roadway and where the property line is. And that'll be important for the next point that the next slide we talk about. A couple of issues kind of rose to the forefront on this site that we want to discuss. The first is that the site in total has a deed restriction on it, which makes it, which currently precludes the development on the site for this purpose. So I bring that up because, it is an important topic, and, a lot of people, are concerned about that aspect of it. I understand that's not an insurmountable deed restriction to lift, but it is a pretty big of a challenge. It needs to go through several steps in order to make that feasible for a construction here. The second thing that we found out on this site here was that there's a lot of resource areas. It's a lot of wetland. There's a river on one side of it with a riverfront offset. There's flood zone associated with it, and the topography is somewhat challenging. What we initially did was tuck the building here, you can see tucked into one corner of the building. Initially, it was a little bit further back, more into the hill. But as we were going through this process, the board wanted us to consider moving it a little bit closer to the road within the existing right-of-way, the roadway right-of-way that is off the site. I said that there was a lot of space in between the road and the property line. What this is showing is that encroaching into that space a little bit. We feel that is something that can accommodate. And what that does is it helps lower the cost because it brings it out of that topography a little bit. On this site plan here, again, the gray is all of the parking. We're showing 66 spaces on here with some opportunity to expand to the right of this page here in the peach-colored areas if the final design warrants some extra parking. And on here, the purple in the middle of the parking area, that would be the proposed building located on the site here. As Joel had said, the first 480 Main Street was a two-story building. It's an existing two-story building. This site was programmed as a one-story building. The third site that we were tasked with looking at is 70 Cedar Street. Again, this is assessor's map, and you can see the red there. It's a pretty large area that is currently undisturbed. And here's what a conceptual site plan might look like here. Again, the purple is the representative of a proposed building. It's a single-story building here. And it has, the gray around it is the associated asphalt and parking. Here we're showing 65 spaces. It's really just because that's the way this particular layout worked out. We would anticipate coming in off of Cedar Pond Road. So the driveway would actually come from the recreational area and tie into the road that's there. We had originally contemplated this coming off of Karen Road, which is shown on the top. But as we were going through this process, it became quickly evident that's a private roadway and one that's not likely to, be able to move forward. The second driveway access that we took a look at here was actually off of Cedar Street itself, adjacent to Karen Road driveway. But there is a rather large wetland area that shows up there, which would most likely preclude that development of a driveway from that location. As I said earlier, if this were to move forward as a chosen site, it still has a number of other steps that would have to go through from a permitting standpoint, one of which is the Conservation Commission. Typically, disturbing that much wetland on that side over there would put you into, they would ask for an alternatives analysis, are there any alternative locations for roadways. When we were going through this process, working with Robin and the town, we felt that access off of Cedar Pond Road could be technically feasible. There is some other considerations for this site here, and what we were taking a look at, initially we had the building a little bit further back up and to the right on this plan. Going through the process here, we were asked to pull that building further away from the proposed or the existing residence all along the side there. What we were given as setback off of the property line was 100 feet. We took that a little bit further to 120. So the dashed lines that that are shown on this plan, one is 100 feet from the roadway and property. The other is 120. So this building and its associated parking and other things are shown on this plan to be greater than 120 feet from the property line. This plan also has a couple of boxes that you can kind of see up and to the right on it. This would be contemplated for additional parking should the final plan warrant more parking spaces needed, or if there was growth in the future. So this plan here shows that conceptual layout on top of an existing aerial that's here. You see the driveway coming off of Cedar Pond Road. and its access back to Cedar Street would go follow Cedar Pond Road back to the left over here.
Each one of those sites was brought through a detailed cost estimate, not only construction costs, but the associated soft costs for engineering, permitting, design fees, furniture, fixtures, equipment, and everything that goes into building this building that would have to be funded. The range of costs is roughly between 9.7 and $10 million for the three schemes, which is not unusual that a renovated building would be the similar cost to new construction. The existing building at 480 Main Street, because it's getting a 5,000 square foot addition, would trigger that existing building to be brought up to current code. So that's means that building would be a gut renovation and new electrical, new lighting, new heating and cooling and ventilation systems, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically you're renovating an existing building, but you're bringing it up to the level of new, which sort of equalizes the cost between the three schemes. And then there's some discretionary costs clearly for each of the sites, high-speed fiber and some locational factors that factor into the Center Street site and other sites. But in round numbers, it's 9.7 to 10 million for the three options.
So this brought the committee to an interesting point. I think everybody was hoping that one of the three options would come through very clearly as the most inexpensive and best suited option. So that put the committee in a tough place to really look at the population increase, the increase in services that the senior center is providing for fuel assistance, SNAP benefits, other services to non-seniors, and also to follow up with the requests that they're receiving from the current seniors to remain active in social, crafting, ballroom dancing, other outdoor activities. Is really where the program of the Council on Aging is being requested to go by the current population. That put the committee in a place of, looking at the current site and trying to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? Next, Jeff. One more. So they took a look at the three options, ended up with a matrix comparing the three options. Very clearly as they went through looking at spending money wisely and which option was the best for the long-term future of the seniors of Sturbridge, they came to the conclusion that new construction was falling ahead over the renovation option for many reasons, but one of those is the opportunity that new construction and a single-story building on the site with room for outdoor spaces and possibilities for the future. So that one clearly took the lead, and that put 70 Cedar and 80 Haynes ahead of 480 on the matrix for the senior committee. Then the next thing that happened was the conservation restriction that is on 80 Haynes Street came to the forefront, and we had all of the information that we needed to make a decision at the time. It's our understanding and the committee's understanding, and they were also not willing to recommend to try to modify the conservation restriction. There's no precedent in the state of Massachusetts for that, and it could be a very lengthy challenge that would not meet the needs of the seniors today. So with all of that said, the committee spent their efforts, had us move the building on site, and came up with the recommended site plan at 70 Cedar for the board to consider. So just a little bit more clarity on this slide. The green is an arbitrary buffer zone that the committee is proposing to maintain forested between all adjacent roads and any development on site. Next, Jeff. This additional green is forest that will remain. We're not going to come in and clear cut the site. And then you will have the possibilities of the gray, which is the proposed dollar value, and the proposed project to move forward. And then the white is just showing whatever happens in the future, and if there's any opportunities that they want to take advantage of, that there's space for them to do so at 70 Cedar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Jeff?
I think if the board has questions of the consultants, roll into that, and then perhaps hear from the study committee themselves, and then public comment.
And I just wanted to remind the audience that this is a process. I mean, the feasibility study was the first step. Everything has a long ways to go, in permitting to go, planning board, site plan, which would answer a lot of the questions on traffic that people have. But it is a process, and this is just part of the process. And we do hope to hear both sides and make the best decision we can. Okay, board, any questions from Chase?
The only question I had, and I know it's in here, and I know we saw it, was how many total parking spaces at 480 Main Street? Was it
66.
66? Okay. And there's 65 that is proposed for 70 Cedar, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I just also want to reiterate what Robin said. The board is not really contemplating 80 Haynes Street. That is out the window with what it would entail, and we would not be successful. It was actually put in there originally just so that we had 3 properties to look at. The town owns a lot of property, but a lot of it's in conservation. So it was just a flat piece of property we did have, but. Excuse me, when we have input and you are recognized, you may talk. Thank you. Okay, Mary?
Are you still asking? Oh, okay. So 60, they're all about the same parking spaces as contemplated here. And I think it said 88 maximum if everybody drove their own vehicle. So, I mean, chances, a lot of times if it's a major event, one person picks up a friend, it seems like all of them we'd be able to accommodate everybody. I don't think all 88 people will drive their own car. So I just wanted to point that out. I think you said that's 88. And 480, can you just elaborate a little bit more about why 480 Main Street, you can bring the number down to, I think you said 73 because of alternative, at the maximum would not be 88. I think one of the slides said 480 may only require 73 or something.
Yeah, so we said if the entire program was all implemented, and if all of the programs were hitting at the same time, a maximum 88 spaces were there. It could likely be brought down to 73 just based on the census of the elder bus that's currently running. The number of people that are sharing rides to the space.
Oh, okay, right now. And so I was reading again the introduction, the executive summary and everything, and the actual feasibility study. And is it correct that all 3 locations could meet the needs of what we as a town said we want in terms of space? Because it says the town's investment in an expanded senior center is an opportunity to promote Sturbridge as an age-friendly community where residents can age in place and meet the expanding demand for services of Sturbridge's growing community of seniors. So I thought part of this feasibility study was already looking forward to our future needs of our seniors. Is that correct?
That's correct. And each building, each site has the same program area, so you don't have to say, well, I choose this site because the other site has a deficiency. They're all equalized in terms of satisfying that program for today's annual growth projection in the senior population.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get at. Not only today, but future growth. I just have another question of the engineers. Okay. And then under the cost estimates, I know it's only probably a small thing, but I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. Option 1, which is the existing senior center location, it says 16,118 GSF, gross square footage. So am I correct in saying that with the addition, that building is actually going to be 4,000 square feet larger?
It's a good point, thank you. The gross square footage is the total constructed area of the building, so that includes the unusable basement.
Basement, okay.
In that gross square footage, but the net square footage, it matches the 12,500 of the other two buildings.
Okay, so it's not smaller nor larger, it's the same, and the 4,000 unused, the basement that is not meeting code for height, it probably would with me because I'm shorter than you, but that it doesn't meet height, amounts to 4,000 square feet.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Ken, would you like to speak for the committee?
Vice Chair.
Sure.
Just have her stand the mic up.
Rebecca Mimo, 76 South Shore Drive. Can I stand straight? Okay, thanks. Thank you. I'm the vice chair of the study committee. I've been part of the study committee for 5 years. Ken and his team has been there for seven years total. What we did as a study committee is we wanted to look at not only the current needs for the senior center, what we have today, but the future growth for the senior center. So that's why we looked at what would make sense for us to have one in town. And one of the criteria that we talked about is that we really wanted to have a one-floor senior center because of the challenges. As you get older, we have challenges as we get into buildings and whatever, that we wanted to make sure that people could get to the various rooms and be able to be functional. What we looked at in the 480 Main Street is that there wasn't a lot of open space as well as to go outside and to walk around, whatever, as there was on the Cedar Street. And we looked at that because there are some trails in the back that the seniors could walk out there. We also looked at the fact that it was close to Burgess School and maybe we could have some things there that would be for the seniors. We also looked at the traffic, and I know that we've heard some things about Cedar Street traffic, but at least with Cedar Street, there's a light at the end, and part of the problems with the current senior center is getting out of Arnold Road, taking a left. It's quite dangerous as far as doing that as well. The study committee really spent a lot of time walking about the various properties that were 2 acres in town. I know we've heard different things, that there's a lot of property in town. Well, at the time, we actually walked several properties that we thought would be viable for us to use, and that's why we came up with seeing the Cedar Street property. The Cedar Street property is town-owned, and we felt that we worked very closely to make sure that, with the architect and whatever, to make sure that it didn't impact the neighbors. We wanted to make sure that it was had a buffer of trees on both the front and the back, and we thought that that property would be the best solution. Now, I would like to say that I think there's been a lot of talk about adding all sorts of different things up there, like, I haven't heard the garage yet, but I've heard a lot about...
Oh, they say the garage is on Main Street.
Oh, wow, okay. A lot of the, to expand the properties, we need a senior center. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Not, truthfully, I know there's been discussion about polling centers, there's been discussion about outside gardens. What this particular property does at Cedar Street, it also gives, it's one surface. You can, when you come in, you have a covered entranceway in. You don't have to deal with any stairs. And I know that some of the things that have come up as far as 480 Main Street, well, what are we going to do with that building on 480 Main Street? That was something that we were tasked to do, to find out what we're going to do with 480 Main Street. I know it's a historic building, and it's very valued in the town. I get that, but we didn't feel that it gave the growth. And truthfully, with COVID, and honestly, Leslie and the program she's putting together for the seniors has been fantastic. In adding new programs all the time. We have like 1,800 seniors in town. And not all of them use the center, but it's going to be, we can't do the programs that we want to do at the center because we don't have the space. So I think that, that this is really a critical need for the town, And I think the thing that I really would like to stress the most is that we really wanted one level, and we thought that being to go out on the grounds and having a nice environment for the seniors would be the perfect. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Anything else from the board?
I have something. I just want to say thank you to you and Ken and the rest of the team, Rebecca, because this is a lot of work. It's not fun to stand up at a packed house meeting and express your opinions, and it's a really big deal, and everybody here should really be thanking them, regardless of the location they're at. It's a lot of extra work. This isn't, this is, they're donating their time to the community, they're donating their time to the other seniors, and it's because they care about their community and they care about the seniors, and we very, very much appreciate it. It's a big deal, so thank you.
Okay, and the rest of the team that's not here?
Yeah, except Leslie.
Okay, and the two that were on earlier and resigned. It's been a long haul.
Sure.
Any good project in town's been a long haul. Tantascwa took 10 years from their feasibility study. Burgess likewise. No matter what decision is made, we're not going to please everyone, that's for sure. We're going to do the best we can.
Just one more comment. When you open it up to the public, if the board can accept the written comments we've received into the record, so they can be a part of the public hearing, you've got a list of the correspondence received so far.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, is there anyone who would like to express their opinion? Jim?
Can you let them, I think they're going to have to sit and kind of use the mic there.
Could we have a pad, please, and people could write their names? That way we'll...
Hi, I'm Jim Waddick, Bentwood Drive. I'm about a 30-year resident of Sturbridge, and I just want to make an observation. I noticed that only 2 out of the 3 properties that were considered were reasonable, that something could be done. But I think we'd be doing ourselves a tremendous disservice if we don't look at the possibility of purchasing a piece of property we don't already own, because I think we could have that for a fraction of the cost of the construction, and we could pick a location that's not going to be bothering the neighbors who are there now. It's not going to crowd us into a building that's really not suited for this, and it would leave us with a building that if we build elsewhere, we can use for other things like the overcrowding here and the overcrowding at the center office building. We could move offices in there, and we'd have 2 buildings. And I don't think that's unreasonable to consider. Thank you very much.
Jim, we had put out requests for proposals for anyone that had land or building or both, and
There are signs all over town advertising sales, especially on Chase Ave, right on the road.
we got 0 response.
Lickman and Cavago have a sign there. I researched it. We can buy 3 acres for just over $300,000. It's for sale. They don't have to call us. We can call them. They have a sign out, Mary, trying to sell the 26 acres they own there. So,
Well, I know.
Mohammed can go to the mountain, or the mountain can come to Mohammed. I mean, there's a sign on the road. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
My name is Bishop Norot. I live at 88 Westwood Drive, and I notice what's been totally glossed over here in the discussion of 70 Cedar Street is the fact that it abuts Cedar Pond, Cedar Lake, and as everyone knows, all lakes in this country are under tremendous environmental pressure. I didn't hear a single word from anybody about what potential impact that could have both on the pond, on the lake. There's a lot of water there, as you've pointed out. There's runoff everywhere. And I'm wondering who is going to guarantee that this doesn't affect the lake in any way? And then if it does, who is going to take care of that? I mean, we have an association now that works very hard to keep that lake clean and clear, and a great piece of tax property for the town, and we would like to keep it that way. And I would like someone to address that issue, and then also let me know what guarantees will be made that the lake will be kept clear, and whatever happens to the lake will be taken care of by somebody.
Well, first of all, if the proposal goes through their the town would own it and the town would be responsible.
Oh, I've
But
heard that
in-
before.
In the process, though, all those considerations are talked about in the different boards. There's probably more runoff going into the lake now than if this project was built with
Do you
retention
know that for a
basins
fact,
and
ma'am?
everything. Do I know that for a fact? Notice I said the word probably.
Well, I'd be careful making a statement like that.
I said probably. I didn't say for fact.
But it's still, you
And
made a
there-
statement.
That's right. There's nothing the matter
But
with
thank you, I've made my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else?
Good evening. Lee Darren, 5 Cedar Pond Road. I guess more of a question that wasn't resolved in the 2 informational meetings that I attended and some other work I've done. In the June 13, 2019 minutes of the Senior Center Committee, it said that a new assessment was needed, and eventually decided not to go forward with the new assessment, even though the need was acknowledged, because it would take too much time. Why did you think you needed a new assessment? That's my first question. And then the second, well, let's start with the first question, if someone could answer that. If a new assessment was needed, why didn't we do it?
Okay, Robin, were you at that meeting?
No, that was well before she got
Okay,
here. I
Rebecca?
would ask,
New assessment of what?
In the minutes of the Senior Center Committee on June 13, 2019, it was discussed that a new assessment was needed because the prior information was too old, but you decided to not go forward because it would take too long.
I know what it was about.
Mike, because it's the people at home.
Yes, I remember what that was about. That was a discussion we had at the meeting to do a new needs assessment because we felt we needed more space than what we actually went forward with. And we decided that it would take too long if we had to redo a needs assessment it would delay the project even further. So that's what that was about.
So we didn't do a needs assessment, so we're forging ahead then on a project that isn't
No.
going to meet the need.
No, a needs assessment was done.
A needs assessment was done, but
The
then
new
we
one.
thought, should we update the needs assessment? Because, as I mentioned, they were introducing new programs, and we decided not to move ahead with that. And that's what I mentioned earlier. The more that we're adding programs, the more space we need.
Thank you for your answer. Next, I did raise this at the last information session. There were at least 3 meetings, October, November, and December, stating that the abutters, land abutters, not just the neighborhood, but the land abutters would be notified of the 70 Cedar Street selection, and there would be a brochure sent out. At one time, I asked one public official why that wasn't done, and the answer was, we did not know. And then when I asked a second time, it was because of COVID. I will note, with all due respect, that I did receive an abutters notice for the meeting tonight. I know COVID raised a lot of havoc throughout the town, but to mail something to us and bring us into the process over a year and a half ago might have alleviated some of the conflict here, because I do think there were plenty of room for compromise, but unfortunately now we're being presented with a plan with, in my opinion, and not in a pejorative way, but it's pretty much take it or leave it. And that's very unfortunate that something that should have been a feel-good project has turned into something with such great conflict. I guess that's more of a statement than a question. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Mary?
I just want to address something. I don't know about this brochure that was supposed to be sent to abutters residents.
It was in the minutes of the Senior Center meeting in
Okay.
October,
I'm not just,
November, and December.
no, I'm not questioning your credibility. I'm just saying that I personally didn't know. But I will say this, if a brochure would have gone out too early, I want to make clear, and I respect everything that Jamie said about the study review committee. The Board of Selectmen have not taken a position to date on what we would feel is our preference, okay? We haven't had a vote. So I, for one, would have thought it would have been a little bit premature for the study review committee to circulate to the town at large about what their desired location is, which I understand is 70 Cedar Street. Because the Board of Selectmen have not taken a position, nor have we even spoken about what we might feel is our preference, weighing all the pros and cons. So I think that it's very useful that everybody is here tonight, but I think that honestly would have added to more confusion, and it would have been like, well, this is a fait accompli, the town wants to move forward with 70 Cedar Street. And, you know, we haven't taken that position yet. So I just wanted to clarify that, Lise.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, could you?
My name is Gail Young. I'm at 237 Cedar Street. I have a question that I haven't heard come up. It involves the school, the Burgess School. I think of the traffic that comes down Cedar Street. The school is right there. And I'm just wondering if there was any study done as to the traffic issues during construction with the school buses running down Cedar Street, getting the kids to the school, or anything involving the school and access to the school, or the amount of traffic already in addition to the traffic already going down Cedar Street. That's my question.
Well, there hasn't been an in-depth traffic study. There was a preliminary one. An in-depth traffic study would come about probably with site plan review.
Mm-hmm. Would that alter the decision about 70 Cedar Street?
Well, it would, any concerns would have to be mitigated.
Mm-hmm.
Can we ask the traffic engineer to kind of talk a little bit about the traffic study and the traffic generation from this project, and maybe some for
Yeah, because it does say preliminary.
And, that's a great point that you make. During the next phases of the design, if one of the sites was moved forward, the next step is to do a little bit more thorough traffic evaluation and counting on the street, determining exactly what vehicles are coming and going. And then there's a mitigation plan that is typically done to offset that, whether that is a traffic management plan that incorporates police details, barrels, cones, those type of things. So that gets looked at in a lot more detail during a construction administration phase of a project like that. When it comes to senior centers, in general, senior centers are not heavy traffic generators. We contemplate up to 88 spaces, which sometimes sounds like a lot, but that is a one-time, use type of application. They don't have that on a near day-to-day basis. So the amount of traffic that's coming to and from the site is very limited. It sometimes doesn't register even well on a traffic study because there's so few cars coming and going. In addition to that, the hours are restrained. I believe that the senior center now is open until 4 p.m.
My question was mainly to the construction of the project. How would that interfere with the flow of school traffic, buses, and whatnot? I mean,
So we're playing pass the baton here. Again, during construction, it is looked at, and that is taken into account. They look at the specific criteria of each roadway, and they implement what the mitigation measures would be to offset whatever the concerns that they uncover there. If it happens to be school traffic, that's a big concern. When you're going through that process, there's ways to mitigate that. That would be done through a planning board process. When we would sit and whoever the designer was would sit with the planning board and say, here's what we've heard. The planning board would give their input, and the traffic management plan would be designed accordingly at that time.
that was a big concern of mine, with the school right there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Oh, okay. Okay, Jim.
My name is John Degnan. I live at 7 Crescent Way. Crescent Gate is a 40B project the town partners with the community. And we have about 120 members. About 80, we did a survey, about 85% of those members use the senior center on an extensive basis. some every day, some every week. So there's a lot of usage of that. All of our units are privately owned. They individually pay property taxes, but we handle pretty much everything else. We plow our own roads, we take care of our own trash, we do our own landscaping, and we pay for all that separately. We buy our water from the town, we buy our sewer services from the town. The thing that we get most often is the emergency management or the emergency services, fire, police, and EMS, and they've been wonderful. Everybody's very pleased with what EMS does, especially whether it's a difficult situation or whether it's just somebody that needs help. We've been thrilled with that. But the only other service we really use is the senior center. And we're really pleased, and I've heard it over and over from a number of people, that the town is finally recognizing that they need some kind of a new facility for a senior center. And so I've been to the presentations, listened to all of the people, these gentlemen talk about the possible plans. I've gone out and walked the property to take a look at what it looks like and drive around those neighborhoods. And so I was very familiar with that. When you look at the 80 Haynes property, it seems that that's one that is really not available because the land trust people are not amenable to do that, and you're probably going to spend an awful lot of money in terms of legal services to move ahead with that, lots of years in terms of that process, and you might not win and you'll be back where you started. So you're looking really at two properties here, the current senior center and the proposed one on Cedar Street or near Cedar Street. So I was interested in the history of the existing senior center. Originally the Snellville District 2 school, built in 1874, and I went back and did a little bit of historical research. 1874, when the Snellville School was first built and first opened. This is the building we're talking about investing money. We're going to talk about investing $9 million into this. Ulysses Grant was the President of the United States when that was built. Hawaii, the nation of Hawaii, signed a treaty with the United States of friendship, and the King of Hawaii came to the United States. New York City annexed the Bronx so that they could create a borough system. Levi Strauss received a patent for blue jeans with copper rivets. Reconstruction after the Civil War was the major talk of all of the cities everywhere. Now we're talking about a school that was built 147 years ago as a school, not as a senior center. And we're talking about investing $9+ million in a building that's 147 years old. We're not going to build a senior center for 10 years. We're not going to build it for 50 years. This is a once-in-a-century kind of opportunity for the town to treat their senior citizens the way they really should be able to be treated, to give people who've been here, many of them who've spent their entire life here, the kind of facility that they should have. To take the older building, and I love older buildings, I think, nothing better than to find a repurpose for that. And I think there are other things the town needs in terms of office space and other things going forward. Would we think about, if it was available, putting kids, this was a school, in a different time, would we think about putting kids back into that building? I think you would have parents that would go crazy. We've built a high school, we've ripped the high school down, we built a new high school. We built an elementary school, we tore it apart, and we upgraded the elementary school. Well, now it's time, really, for the senior citizens to have a facility that they can be proud of and that they can meet their needs. And, if it's a case of spending $9 million to upgrade a 147-year-old building, or building a brand-new building that meets all of the codes and all of the specifications, from a money standpoint, it just makes a lot of sense. Keep the building, do something else with it. Turn it into an office building. Even look at the way to maybe build that into part of this process of building a new senior center, so that when you're leaving the old building and going to a new building, you leave it in a condition so that it can be an office building or some such thing like that. But seniors, do we want to spend $9 million of our dollars to reconstruct a 150-year-old building? Or do we want to put a first-class, world-class building up to support the seniors that live in the town? Thanks. Not a question.
Thank you, John.
Hi, Tara Linton, 7 Seneca Lane, and I just want to say that, first of all, I completely agree that the seniors deserve the services and the programs that they are seeking, and especially given the fact that it's a growing population, and so I just want to make that statement. Mary, I think you were one of the people that actually said at a meeting that I called into many months ago that we should not move forward until we know what's going to go into that building if it's going to be vacated. It prompted my first letter to you, actually. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. And another thing I wanted to just bring up is you mentioned that there would be potentially elder bus issues on Cedar Street. I do live off of Cedar Street, take my life into my hands every time I turn onto it. And my kids have a school bus stop on Cedar Street. But you mentioned the elder bus potential issues traveling, but I would just like to ask the question, are the costs to enhance both Cedar Street and Cedar Pond Road included in the cost that we see here? So the $9 to $10 million, the cost to put in sidewalks, widen the road, and anything else that would need to be done to accommodate the building at 70 Cedar Street. Just want to make sure we're comparing, because we're saying $9 to $10 million, but if there's additional road costs, whereas at 480 Main Street, there's sidewalks and roads already, there's accessibility. So I don't know who can answer that question, but that's all.
They're not. The sidewalk is going to be grant funded on Cedar Road, Cedar Street, and then Cedar Lake Drive will be done through Chapter 90 funds for the town, which will include drainage, sidewalks, pedestrian ways, and all those good things.
Thanks.
Okay, and could I just address the issue about, and I know when Mary raised it about, we don't know if we vacate 480 Main Street, what's going to go there. The committee was not charged with that. In the past, when this safety complex was built, there were no plans what to do with the old fire station or the old police station across the street. So it's understandable that you can move out of a building and not know what's going to go in there. That would be a whole other discussion and process, to use the word. Okay, anyone else? Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Michael Supranat, 14 Farm Way. I want to follow up on the question that Gail Young had on the traffic safety at Cedar Street. PAR Engineering has done corridor studies in years past, and they have access to all the crash data. And I know that Cedar Street at Main Street is one of the highest crash locations in the community. Arnold Road at Main Street is not. And you have to go on the data. So I was wondering if PAR, since they had access to this data, if they took this into consideration in their evaluation of the sites.
It's a great point. And typically, when you have signalization like that is where you have crash data that's associated with it. It is part of another project that is moving forward with the town as well, I believe, for some improvements out there, which should address some of those safety issues, and we did take that into consideration.
You know, Cedar Street is, I know several people have said that, you know, leaving Arnold Road is more dangerous, but the data does not support that perception. So I just wanted to point that out. And, yeah, you know, any improvements on Main Street that you referred to are at least, you know, 8 to 10 years in the future. So yeah, there are plans in process to improve the corridor through the Fistale section of town. But you know, it's a long way off. Hopefully, we'll have a senior center before then. I think that one of the things that we're not really discussing here is that if the land on at 70 Cedar Street is used for a senior center, the town is losing the opportunity for a recreational field or more.
No, that's 60.
No?
The two plans
Two fields will fit, plus the senior center.
Yeah, but there were, no, they were, no. That land was, my understanding, that land was given to the town for conservation purposes.
No, there's no deed restriction on the land.
I know there's not a deed restriction, but I attended the conservation meetings
Yes.
when that was being donated to the town. And the intent was...
Mike, if it's not in writing, verbal intent isn't worth much.
Okay.
You know?
I know it's not in writing, but...
The town meeting warrant said municipal use.
Yeah.
But that land was intended to be used for conservation recreation. I am absolutely certain of that, and it's not in writing, so we'll just go do whatever we want, damn well please.
No, Mike, that's not the way it works, and you know.
Yeah, okay.
Jeff's looked up the town meeting vote for municipal purposes,
Yeah, I know.
which could be
I was there.
Town hall.
I know what went on. But I think that there were some opportunities to look at additional information that could have led to a different conclusion and not necessarily the 70 Cedar Street site. I think I do believe that the off-site improvements are going to cost the town, whether it be Chapter 90 money that can't be used elsewhere. Cedar Street should be improved to a higher standard if this is with full bicycle and pedestrian access, if this goes through at 70 Cedar Street, which will cost several millions of dollars. So the off-site improvement cost, when you weigh the two, the existing site is less overall cost to the town. That's my comment.
Thanks, Mike. Okay.
Beverly Litchfield, 136 Lake Road. I just have a suggestion going forward. If you're going to do a traffic study, you better include Cooper Road, because all the cars that are going down Arnold to go to the senior center right now are going to hook over and go over Cooper, which is a very narrow, windy road, and get onto Cedar, which is again a very narrow road. So as much as I'm not in that neighborhood, I travel it a lot. I'm one of those that diverts over Cooper to get to the light because you don't want to go down to the end of Arnold and have to take a left. So I just, for going forward, you better include that location, that whole road, because there's some blind corners on there and a little bridge, and you're forever pulling over a little bit to let somebody go by. Just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Steve Sexton, 51 Seneca Lane. I think there's been a lot of great issues laid out here. I know I've sent in my opinions, right, to the Board of Selectmen in terms of, I think, all the impacts that many have communicated here. What I really struggle with, honestly, is for the magnitude of this decision. I understand we'll figure this out later and kick the can down the hill, but once a particular proposal is in motion, I think you said it, it's about mitigation at that point. This is far too serious a consideration for that sort of line of thinking, as far as I'm concerned, okay? So we've already heard about there's other costs, total cost of ownership to be able to actually do this. That's number one, right? And I think for all of us, that's a major consideration. Personally, I go through that rec area 5 out of 7 days, right? And if you look at the number of children, families that use that, I'm usually biking through there. And as far as mixing that with a whole nother population going in and out, WRTA vehicles, just a growing number of home delivery vehicles that are coming into this congested neighborhood with 30 homes almost, and only one way in and one way out, we're doing that community a huge disservice, quite honestly. And I just don't think we've looked at other parcels sufficiently enough, despite whatever opinions there may be, for all the land that we do have access to, and I forget the gentleman who said it, I think it was maybe Jim. Let's take a step back here in terms of really looking at this in a more diligent way, because really no decision like this should have this many layers of complexity to it, right? It should be something that, frankly, everyone has buy-in to, say, wow, this really makes a lot of sense for us as a town. Right now, you have a site that's being recommended where probably a third of this room is absolutely for it, and I'm for a senior center. Let's make it very clear, right? I absolutely think we need to invest in something that's modern and usable for the long term. But location is everything. And why we would want to put that right in the middle of an area that's already highly congested, as you've already heard, and comes with a whole slew of other grave impacts right to that neighborhood, to traffic safety, as well as then to the lake, the wetlands that are there, and that continues to probably get minimized as well. But for me, it really starts with the cost as well as traffic and safety. And I just don't think we've done enough, and how we can feasibly go that much further with it until we fully know all that, I really struggle with. So that's my statement for the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey Catone, 1 Cedar Pond Road. I have a question about the grants that we're going to have for sidewalks and road improvement. Are there any type of grants that we can apply for renovating the existing senior center to help alleviate some of these costs?
Well, we had our state rep and our state senator in, I forget when it was, but they said there are no grant monies for senior centers. And that would include 480 Main Street renovation because it's a senior center.
And then I had another question. At one of the senior center information meetings that I went to, I'd asked for a list of the potential sites that they had to review, and the only parcel that was spoken to me was something on River Road, and I wasn't able to find any other information on the other parcels. Is there a list somewhere? I tried looking online too, but there was nothing.
If you go to the,
you can go
to the town's website and into the GIS system and write Town of Sturbridge, you'll get a list of 1,800.
Right, but they were given a list of so many, right?
And we went through all of those. We went through the same thing. The same thing. We tried to find out which ones were available, which ones were 2 acres, at least 2 acres. We had, it was like 10 or 12 pages, we spread them all up, and we went through each one and highlighted to figure out which ones and which ones were town
Oh,
hall.
I think it was Robin that said that there was a list, but, all right, thank you.
Well, it's the list they made from the website.
From the GIS, because
Yeah.
I looked at the GIS map as well, and there's many, many parcels that are over 2 acres, but thank you.
Oh, there are many parcels, but they don't fit the bill.
Can I just answer?
Mary?
I just wanted to also answer, our chair is correct that Senator Goldby and State Rep Smola were here. And, because people love to say, is there a grant for this, is there a grant for that? And they were both in agreement that there isn't a grant to renovate an existing building, nor for a new construction. Let me just I don't know if we asked, is it historical or not? But I think they probably would have offered that to us when we said, is there a grant? But personally, I do just want to add this caveat, because I raised it about a month ago, and now we know that we will have some CARES money. I think that possibly, because I'd like to look into it further, and I've already raised this at a previous Board of Selectmen meeting, when I hear the architect say, the old part is going to be gutted. We've got a 5,000 square foot, in my opinion, beautiful addition, and gutting the old part of the building, and it would need a brand-new ventilation system. That kind of sparked my interest, because I did go online, and CARES money can be used to improve ventilation systems and air quality systems, and it's being done in some of the schools. I Googled one senior center in New York that's going to be improving their ventilation system. I don't know if it can be, but it's something I personally would want to look at and see if some CARES money can be used towards that. I don't think it's reasonable to think that CARES money could be used for a new construction, but if we're gutting the old part of the building, I'm inclined to think that that is something that I'm going to encourage the board to definitely look into if we opt to renovate our existing building.
Considering there's other projects in town that you're going to be asking the townspeople for money as well, it just seems like a good option.
Right.
Thank you.
Sorry, Tara Linton, 7 Seneca Lane again. The town of Mansfield is applying for a one-stop grant for $4 million to redo their existing senior center. They're taking over their police station. So whether or not that's from the state, I don't know, but their senior center that they are building is actually for 4,000 seniors and is about the same size of the senior center that we are proposing for our town. So something called a one-stop grant for $4 million. I don't think it's been established for them yet, but certainly it sounds like it's something, and that's specifically for use of an existing building, historic building in town. So I just wanted to call that.
Thank you. It can certainly be looked into, because the money, we won't know the money until we get close, and money, the issue would always go to ballot and town meeting vote. Hi.
I own property at 2 Cedar Pond Road. My name is Rose Tatro. My concern is the plowing is so bad in the winter. I've seen where it's almost like 2 days. It's not even plowed. I know that will have to be addressed. Then I have a home. It's like there's 10 of them in a row. Beautiful area, very private. There's small children. Now I'm noticing more cars are coming and trying to turn around, but we've kind of deferred them from doing that. But I think there's got to be something, some big sign to say, not an entrance. It says dead end now, but it still doesn't stop them from coming. And I'm noticing where the beach is, there's more people from out of town going there. And the last time that we had the great weather, I looked and they're coming towards our area with their cars. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, they don't even live in Sturbridge, and they're there. And I think that's a great place. I think the tennis courts are beautiful. I think it's a really nice place. But I think in all consideration, when they have the rec, those kids, I go about 10 miles an hour because I'm always afraid a child is going to come out of the, area in front of a car, and I don't want to be responsible for hitting one. So I think it's going to be a concern where people are aware of these little children during the rec time, And again, coming out of Cedar Pond Road, you better look like 3 times, because I've done it so many times, starting to come out, and here comes a car flying, and being elderly, it's a concern, so just thought I'd mention that.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, San Germano 86 Cedar Street. I sent a long letter to the Board of Select Persons, and so I'm not going to repeat exactly the same thing, but I wanted to mention a couple of things. One of that was already mentioned, is the pollution, is the lack of an environmental impact assessment on this site. The increasing runoff, we have more impervious surface, we're going to have more runoff. More runoff not only to the Cedar Lake, but also to the wetlands, also to the neighbors' backyards. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I wanted to mention here is that this is a Zone 2 wellhead protection area, and there was no also an assessment on how constructing this impervious surface in this land will affect the water recharge on the wells of the people living here. And the other thing is related to the amount of sites that were considered. And I'm a GIS scientist, and I went to the GIS website from the town. And yes, there are many, hundreds of sites that are open. If you look at filter by acreage, yes, you have maybe a handful, maybe 10, 20 that are larger than 1 hectare. 1 acre, but then you have multiple sites that are adjacent to each other, that are maybe 1 or 2 or 3, that are all owned by the town. So if they are all owned by the town and cumulative, they can build them in there, why those sites were not considered. So this is more like a statement maybe than a question, but I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
You have to understand, when the committee was formed in 2015, we had to go by the list, town owns property then. We had to look at those properties. Now, are you suggesting that these new town-owned properties, that we start all over again and go another 10 years? Is that what you're suggesting? So the 7 years that this committee put their volunteer time in is all for naught, because I've been hearing different things about this property, how there's trails and stuff. I heard one thing this morning in a forum that this one person, he didn't want anybody else to know about this property because he walks his dog there on these trails. Now, are you going to tell me you're going to put a man and his dog in front of all the seniors that have made this town what it is today? The people like myself that's lived here all our lives. This property you're talking about, your houses there was no houses when I grew up there. I grew up on Cedar Lake. In fact, I lived in the same area that one of you people own the house now. And there was hardly any camps on the lake, for that matter. I mean, but it's progress. Now, the seniors, they put, especially the ones that's been here all their lives, they put new schools, new elementary schools, new high schools. They paid their taxes for a new municipal building, which is too small now, highway department, which is too small, and the seniors, we're still in this building, and you want to put an addition on it because this property is, it has walking paths, and it has beautiful trees, but we're not cutting them all down. But the paths, they're made by the people that live around there. They don't, you people didn't own the land, it belongs to the town. Just because you use that to walk doesn't mean that you deserve to keep it to yourself. This is a perfect place that the community thought for a senior center. It's quiet, it's pristine. The gentleman here talked about putting ball fields there. Okay. Would you rather have ball fields in the senior center? Sooner or later, you know, if you don't put a senior center there, sooner or later, you're going to have recreation. Ball fields, sooner or later. So which would you rather have? What's that? Oh,
Wait a minute, ma'am, could you,
yeah.
when you get the mic?
Thank you, Madam.
Thanks, Kathy.
So that's basically what I gotta say. We need to do this for the seniors. And the gentleman said before, you're putting in $9 million in a 150-year-old building that you don't even know once they start gutting that out what they're gonna hit. They may find out that the foundation is no more good. You know, so you're starting right from scratch anyway. So it's not a matter of it's not a matter of, you know, I feel for you people that live on Seneca Lane and you don't want, you know, you want that pristine area, but it's a beautiful, pristine area for our seniors. It's out in a quiet neighborhood, and you're going to have traffic one way or the other. If you don't have a senior center there, you're going to have ball fields, and that's still going to have traffic. So I think you have to look at the long range. It's a perfect place for us to expand if we need to. Well, 20, 25 years down the road, it's a perfect place. You can't expand 480. You can't expand 0.78 acres. You can't go any further. You got what you got, and you can't expand. That's all I had to say. And as far as, we went by the list that we were given back in 2014. You can't expect us to go by the same list that you have now.
I don't know that we've bought that many parcels.
Right, we've bought Plimpton, we've bought open space, but we really haven't bought small parcels of land. So I can't imagine the list would have changed much. Okay, ma'am, you had wanted to speak? Okay, Kathy?
Hi. Kathy Charette, 8 Cedar Lake Drive. I wasn't going to speak, but I just wanted to dovetail off of the concerns of the woman that lives on Cedar Pond Road about the traffic concerns and the risk to the children that use this area. I would invite anybody in this room, if you don't live in the hood and you're not super familiar with it, to drive through there any summer morning between 9 and 1 when the rec program's going on. The amount of kids this year, and I gotta say, it absolutely warmed my heart. With COVID and everything, I think every single parent and every single kid in town wanted to go to the rec. It was busier than I've ever seen it in the 10 years that we've lived there. But with that being said, every time we drove down the street, she said 10 miles an hour. I'm thinking I probably less than that, 5 miles an hour crawling, because no less than 4 times I had a small child just walk right out in front of my car. Run, walk. They don't see it as a road. They see it as their play area, their driveway, their whatever. And then you have however many children are there. You have the adults playing pickleball, which is great, love it, love to see them there. Kids playing basketball, and the rest of the folks that use the beach. So I would hope, if this project goes forward, that there is a serious look at traffic mitigation of something there before some child just gets run over, because it's already kind of scary, so, and I'm not sure what the solution to that is, but.
Kathy, I'm sure if it does go forward, all those things would be looked at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm like a bad penny, I just keep showing up. Beverly Litchfield, 136 Lake Road. I commend all the work that this committee has done on this. I think the people in this room and the residents who couldn't attend, all they're asking is a little more due diligence. Really prove to them that there's nothing else out there, that there's nothing to purchase, there's nothing to combine, and that this property is the end-all. That's what they really need to hear. They need to see that every single box has been checked, every property's been looked at, and they don't want to just settle, because they were given 3 properties to review, and this is the least of all evils, is basically what they're looking at in this room. And if you can prove to them that you've done even a step more in your due diligence, I think it goes a long way. Just my opinion.
Rebecca?
When we were asked to do this, what we did is we did our due diligence at the time. We put out an RFP and asked if anybody in town was willing to sell a property or anything that was available in town. I know the times are different now, but we really did do our due diligence. We looked at every property that was given to us. Our directive was to not spend any money on land. Our directive was to only have the monies for a new building. So that's what we did. So I know it's 7 years later, and I'm frustrated too. It took us that long to get to this point. We did our due diligence. And I think that if there's something out there, then for heaven's sake, we would be willing to look at that. But to sit here and say we didn't do our due diligence, it was 7 years of work. Yes, that's what we wanted, better due diligence.
Okay, John?
Yeah, it happens like this in a lot of cases. We've been listening to the same arguments for 10 years about the senior center. The real estate people have an acronym for it, NIMBY. Yeah, we love the idea of a senior center. We want to have a senior center for seniors in Sturbridge, but not in my backyard. And this is a not in my backyard kind of issue. We have a piece of property owned by the town, a piece of property that's appropriate for this, but some people aren't happy because they don't want it there. Put it somewhere else, whether you're talking about a landfill, or whether you're talking about a hospital or a school, put it somewhere else, but not in my neighborhood. And that's the bottom line.
Thank you, John. Ma'am?
Hi. I wasn't going to speak. Shelley Fairbrother, 9 Deer Run Circle. So if you look up my address, it's not in my backyard. Okay? I think there's a couple other people that it's not right near. What I'm concerned as a resident of Sturbridge, and I'm so thankful for everyone's work,
And also, I hope to be a senior here, although the prices, I'm not sure if I'll be able to afford to stay in Sturbridge, just saying. But my thing is that I was under the impression that we were gonna have 3 pieces of property, like 3 viable pieces of property. And then, you know, pretty much knowing that one of them was just off the, you know, kind of not seen viable right at the same time, it leaves 2 pieces. And I just, I'm really, I don't want to say, like, I was hoping for a 3rd, or there should be 3. I just really, and I just feel so bad for everyone that's put in the time. I feel bad for the seniors. I feel bad for the people that this could potentially be in their backyards. One day, everything's gonna be in people's backyards. But the thing I'm trying to say is I really wish there was 3. I feel as a taxpayer, that pays a lot, by the way, that I wish we had 3. I really do. I feel that almost like, I don't know how much of our money was spent, and I don't know if you can answer me, on like having that 3rd location that wasn't even viable. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we've spent a lot of money, you know, but I guess,
It was,
yeah.
it was all in one lump sum.
Yeah.
And I will take the blame for pushing to have that 3rd
Yeah.
piece, because the Board of Selectmen at that time only wanted to choose 2.
Yeah.
And I said we should have 3 to get a better
Yeah.
variety.
Yeah.
And the piece that fit the criteria, as it turned out, was so far out of our reach that,
Right.
you know,
And
it would have been a good piece.
Yeah. And I think,
Excuse me.
I think my concern is also like, so if it goes into the old senior center, people are saying, well, it can open up stuff, we don't know what's, you know, what they'll find, but also this property, we don't know what they're gonna find. And again, I know you've said this is a process, and there's, you know, all these different, you know, different things, but I feel like we don't have, if there was a 3rd viable property, that potentially, if we were to run into, you know, more things, that it doesn't give us 0, I guess.
Yeah, the committee, though, they did narrow it down to.
No, and I appreciate,
Hit the-
I greatly appreciate everything. I've been on committees, I've been on, oh boy, yeah. But I just wanted to let you know that not everybody here, it's not in my backyard. Okay.
Thank you. He had his hand up. Craig.
It really surprised me no end to hear that this committee was given an assignment that says, don't spend a penny on a piece of property. Look at only properties that the town owns. Are you suggesting to me that it is impossible to have bought a piece of property and developed it and still come in at $10 million or less, that you constrain that group to that? It doesn't even make any sense to me. It's nonsense that you would restrict somebody that way. And I appreciate the work that you've done. I absolutely would have a senior center wherever it would be right. I don't think anything you're discussing here, other than maybe the renovation, makes any sense. You've got to release the constraints and say, and do a true RFP that includes what's available to be bought. And then you do a development plan that says, and it may come in at less than the $10 million. I mean, it's
Well,
just,
No, it makes.
no need,
No.
You've already said everything you need to say.
No, because we did not shackle them.
They just
Because
said
we,
you did.
no, it was suggested because we did put out an RFP for property to buy or building to buy. 0. So then they said, we'll look at our own properties. That's how it transpired. It wasn't shackled and handcuffed.
Yeah.
Can I address?
Mary?
So if you look on page 2 of this handout, I don't know if you got it, Sturbridge Ages
there.
Community. Okay, oh, yeah, it's up to. In 2017-18, oh, you got it right there.
Yep.
We did put out an RFP requesting property or available land for a new senior center. No responses were received, leaving the town with only currently owned properties to choose from and a few in the center of town.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify that. And I also just want to add,
I probably misspoke. I apologize then if I didn't.
no, I don't want, I think it's really important for us to just focus on which of these two locations, if either of them, we consider advantageous or not, weighing the pros and cons, because it seems like all we've really focused a lot on are some of the cons. And I don't know if it's appropriate at this point for us to say something, because I'm willing to put some thoughts of my own out there. And
Well, Craig had wanted to say
oh, okay, go
something.
ahead, and then I'll.
My name is Craig Moran. I live at 45 Seneca Lane. And I have a piece of property that's probably the closest one to the 70 Cedar Street location. A couple of things that I wanted to bring up is that, you know, everybody's kind of fighting about who said what and everything else. We're really at a crossroads with a lot of things coming together at once. Number one is, we've got the Massachusetts Turnpike. It was built in 1957. Today it's 2021. And we still have the same piece of asphalt moving the cars that we were moving in 1957. And you know something? There's no more room for them. They crash every morning. People are smashing into one another because there's no room to move. And then we brought on donuts and coffee and cell phones, and that took care of the rest of it. We've got the same thing on Route 20. They got this thing called Waze on the cell phones. Well, guess what happens when they crash out on the turnpike? Let's send them through Sturbridge. You can't go down Farquhar Road. You can't get down Hall Road. You can't get down the center of town. It jams the town solid. We don't have any problems with that. We just live with it. We need to take a look at what's going on here. Besides that, we're the baby boomers. World War II ended, and guess what? Here we are. So now what's happening is, we've got all these people coming in that are going to be seniors. You know, we say we got 66 parking spaces. How many people on an average day bring their cars to the senior center?
36,
36.
because we park across the street. We have 27 parking spaces now.
So-
We have to use the space across the street.
So the 36 cars total everybody that comes to the senior center on an average day.
Well, and providing the program, whatever program it is, yes. The elder bus takes about 10 people. But
Okay.
we're still not open for congregate lunches, so.
Okay, so we're pretty much, if we put in 66 spaces, we're going to be safe?
We're gonna be
And we
good.
can always leave room
You got it.
for addition?
It would be fantastic.
Okay. Now we get into the point of the property where we're paying money. And the thing is, I was living in my home there when they built the houses on Karen Road. They built houses number 2 through 14 and 16. And they're on the sides towards Brookfield. The fellow who bought the property bought all of the property, including this whole section. He decided there was too much wetlands in this section. He built his houses, and he donated the rest of the land to the town of Sturbridge, which we're talking about today. I was interested in buying 2 acres of that land because it abuts my property. And he said, no, I'm donating everything to the town of Sturbridge. They can do with it as they please. And that was his exact words. So there was no restrictions, there was no deed things or anything else. The only thing there is in there was wetlands. As far as the traffic on Cedar Street and Cedar Pond Road, you know, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. We have, on Cedar Pond Road, we have the tennis courts. That's a lot of cars in the mornings when it's summertime and everything else. And they're double parked, they're all over the place. But that's just the way it is on Cedar Pond Road. And there's kids there, yes, we have kids. We've been doing it for a long time. How many kids have we had hit by cars on Cedar Pond Road? Anybody get an answer?
None.
None. Most of the people keep an eye on their kids. We've had one kid, I think, killed on the end of the dock because the mother dropped the kid off, as I understand, with the other kid. There was 2 of them. This one wasn't registered, so nobody was watching them. Gone. It's an honest mistake, but it happened. So the things that we're fighting about here with the baby boomers, yeah, there's more seniors now than there ever was, and there's more seniors coming up. When we started this project, we didn't have as many seniors, but now we've gone 5 years from there, and we got more seniors. So we're just going to keep adding to the pile of seniors, and to fix a school that was built in 1827 or something?
74.
1874. What are we looking at now up on Route 148? Jesus Christ, it looks like an Amazon warehouse up there. We got buildings everywhere. You know what I mean? I understand we're taking care of other towns, but I mean, even the Burgess School is no small operation. So Cedar Street is going to be Cedar Street. We have more traffic coming down Cedar Street, getting onto Route 20 from the houses and everything else up in that area than we go going to the school, because it's just a busy area. There's a lot of houses, there's more building going on, it's a lot going on. And everybody says, like they said before, I don't want it in my yard. Well, I can tell you, at the end of that Cedar Pond Road, there used to be a skate park there for the kids. And I would lay in bed every single night listening to those damn things would go till 2 o'clock in the morning, because we put lights in there for them. You know what I mean? So it's one of those deals where I didn't like it, but it was here when I got there, so who am I to complain? We want to build something that's good for everybody. You know what I'm saying? We want it good for the residents, we want it good for the seniors, and we want it safe for everybody. But I don't think sidewalks and all of this, yeah, they're good to get to the school, I get that. But most of the dusting is done with school buses, so we don't really have that issue. But as far as the seniors go, you know, I'm sure that we're going to come to the point where we're going to have elder buses. That's probably in the works. Most of the other towns have an elder bus. You know what I mean? And we're going to come down that road. And you know, he talked about 100 seniors living in the Crescent View or whatever. How many have we got down off of Route 15 in the trailer park, Kelly Road? There you go. And they all get there if they want to get there. So I think some of the problems that we're trying to tackle are really not problems that we need to be addressing. I think it's all going to come together as soon as we get this thing built. And to have a senior center there, it's going to be quiet. There's not going to be any noise. I don't think they have any rock bands coming in every week. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a nice, quiet place. And I can just walk across the street. I'm a happy guy, but...
Looks like a gentleman there wants to be recognized.
Okay,
You okay? All right.
Pete,
And
you
I'm-
want to talk? Okay,
I'm done.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think he's up and then.
Hi, Peter Mimo, 76 South Shore Drive. As a citizen of Sturbridge, I've taken it upon myself, since I retired a few years ago, to start hiking the trails of Sturbridge. So as also I attend the senior center for one of their events on a weekly basis. So I became familiar with the senior center. I became familiar with all the trails in Sturbridge and the other surrounding towns. I became a member of Opakam Trust, the land trust that manages a few of our properties in town. Opakam Woods is a wonderful land trust they manage. Plimpton is in development now, and Opakam Woods manages 80 Haines Street. So when I heard that they were a candidate on the list of 3, and that there was a study committee looking at them, I took it upon myself with some friends to hike that property. I also don't mind dabbling in deeds. I go on the Registry of Deeds and I look up the deeds and I look at the land associated with 80 Haines. So the point I'm trying to make, I will make in the next minute, hopefully, is the third choice is a viable choice. I think the town of Sturbridge has learned a lot about 80 Haines, and I wish it would be called 80 Haines, because Route 15 was abandoned and decommissioned by the state DOT many, many years ago. Basically gave all the right-of-way on the side of Route 15 to the town of Sturbridge. What I come to find out, and what I believe the town now knows, is there's a large chunk of land in front of 80 Haines. So good did come out of this, even though 80 Haines didn't finish high on the list by the study, by the feasibility committee that rated the pros and cons of all 3 locations. after looking at all those sites in town and winding it down and having a little bit of interest from the town, what can we do with 80 Haynes? It was looked at for ball fields some time ago, and it failed miserably because of wetlands. The time it took for this team to take that layout on Cedar Street and pop it onto the corner of 80 Haynes was probably less than an hour's of their work. There was not a lot of money spent on that. They took the same exact property and parking and popped it on the corner of 80 Haynes. So due diligence was done. It fits. The problem is there's a piece of land that it overlaps onto that has a CR on it. So in looking at the CR, as a novice, I'm not a conservationist, or I just read the CR. There's an opportunity to amend it. Because we have that strip in front that we could essentially try to swap some land for what's in front to what we need for that little piece of senior center that has to go there. No one's ever done it before. That means we shouldn't do it. It may take some time, but due diligence was done to 80. It has a neat location. It might be a viable thing, but due diligence was done. And now it's in your court. It will take some time to look into what it would take to swap some land. You're in the driver's seat. The Board of Selectmen is the deed owner for 80. There's a piece in front of it that the town of Sturbridge owns with no deed at all. Never been deeded. It's been given back to Sturbridge years and years ago. I'm saying the DOT told me it was probably in the 1990s. It was given back to Sturbridge, no deed. So there's some technicalities here, but the fact that people are at this meeting saying, we wanted more than 2 sites. You have 3 sites. They showed the senior center fits on all 3 sites. Let's move on. It was a property on the town that could be used, but after the ball field failed, Conservation Department and you folks, whoever was sitting here, decided to put a CR on it after the ball field failed. Yes, the dates. If you look at the dates.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
So the ball field, I've got the drawings that we use. In fact, they showed up in the studies that you could still see elements of the ball field with a date on the lower left, like 2011. The CR went on like in 2014.
That's correct.
So after it failed ball fields, a CR went on it. Now we want to use it for a senior center. We're saying we can't because there's a CR. So I think I've made my point. There's an amendment clause in the CR, but it will take probably years to put it through the Secretary of the Highways in Massachusetts and all the voting that has to go to modify the CR. But you're not taking away the CR. The 8.4 acres on that property, you've got 2 more in front of it. So you could do a land swap. So I spotted that. I tried to share that with a few people to see if it would take momentum, but the ball was already moving toward the feasibility, saying that Cedar Street was the best out of all 3 sites. So my point is, you have 3 sites. The town of Sturbridge has learned a lot about the third one, the third horse in the race. You've learned a lot. Maybe there's an opportunity in the future to modify that. Opacum, in my opinion, they have a minor vote because you are the moving party. If you want to amend it, it's the Board of Selectmen that has to begin the process. Not a citizen, not a TA, not the Conservation Department. It's the Board of Selectmen that has to take the first stop. Opacum is at your mercy. If you show that it's a legitimate amendment, they're at your mercy.
Yeah, before Mary gets to you, Peter, Jeff looked into it. It does take an awful lot. Even has to go to state legislature.
Right.
And you have to give a piece of equal size and everything.
Which we have.
It's,
Absolutely do.
but it's too long of a process, and it was negated.
I
Mary
understand,
wants
but I'm saying you've learned a lot. It was your third option, it came in third.
Oh, yeah,
Let's-
write down.
Let's move on.
Mary?
No, I just wanted to address that, too. I'm sorry, I shook my head. We approached it's a legal matter. It's more than just being in the hands of the Board of Selectmen. years ago, to give you some background, because unless you were at that particular town meeting, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask if you were. Okay, so I'm going to give a little background. The Recreation Committee wanted to put multi-use fields over there with a removable fence. The way the deed read was conservation and, didn't say active recreation, it said conservation and recreation purposes in the deed. We approached town council that said, we need clarification of that deed, that it's not restricted to conservation only. That land was bought with Conservation Preservation Act money, CPC money. Okay, so we followed town council's advice, which is what we have to do, so that we don't put our residents in the face of a litigation, right? We wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't follow council's advice. So we went forward for a deed change to read conservation and active recreation, to get rid of that ambiguity. That deed was, that clarification of the deed language was voted down at town meeting. It became conservation only. Now, that was a legal matter. Once that was filed that way as the deed, and that's how it was clarified, that's when the conservation restriction was imposed. So we don't have town council here tonight to say that. But, and also we had our town administrator look into it, and the state would take a serious issue with us having bought that money with Conservation Preservation Act money to try to undo it, and they would have given us a fight on that, because they don't want a precedent where we buy it with one source of funding and then we don't honor that. And quite frankly, I agree with that, because when we purchased that land at town meeting, it was purchased with Conservation Preservation Act money, which is three things: active recreation, open space, and affordable housing. There's only certain things, and historic preservation, that you can do with CPC money. And putting a senior center there is not one of them. So I'm just, so it is more than just it's in our hands and OPECM's at our mercy. No, it's a legal matter with respect to whether we are legally allowed to now put a structure on when the deed reads conservation. So I just wanted to, and I would.
Because that was a battle.
Because that was a battle. So I know, I'm just saying, so it's not really in our hands, because it's a legal matter. And we're not going to face a litigation over that. So that's a legal matter. But I don't know if other people want to, oh, so go ahead. I'm not, it's up to Mary.
So you're done with me?
I'm just done. I just wanted to give that I just wanted to give that background on, it's not as easy as the Board of Selectmen.
I understand.
And OPECM's at our mercy.
But
It is a legal issue with the state and CPC funds.
This group looked at land.
They did their job.
This group plopped a building on it.
They did their job. I commend that.
I still feel it was viable if we put the money into it, but you're saying it's a legal thing and you got to take.
Well, you got
but
to,
it
you know,
was
we're
viable.
weighing the pros and cons of all the different three sites. That is a serious con, right? So, but there's benefits and there's disadvantages to each site, and that is a rather big disadvantage. And so, you know, reasonable minds can certainly differ as to what is more reasonable and what's not reasonable, but that is a significant hurdle as far as that piece of land goes.
From the CR point of view, there's three reasons to amend. And I see three valid reasons inside the current situation that are not clear to people, and I believe the town can learn from those three situations. It would allow you to amend it and have more acreage on 80 with the same CR, no changes, with the same CR, no buildings, no pavement, no nothing, on 80. Because you've got this extra land you know nothing about, and sorry to be so blunt, it's not deeded. You own it, but it's not deeded.
Okay,
And if you deeded it, you could then see that you could swap it and give more land to the CR. So give that to an attorney and say, look, it meets all the requirements of amending a CR. We're not trying to change it. It has still environmental
I get it,
protection.
but the actual land that we would be putting, some of the land that we
80
would be putting the senior center on
is
was
80.
purchased with CPC funds.
That's behind. You're talking about the CR.
So you're
I'm
not,
talking about
I'm
the
not
2
talking about
acres
the
in front.
conservation restriction, I'm talking about the fact that the land was purchased with CPA money.
Who's driving?
Is it not true?
There it
I
is.
mean,
You see that lower, the dark line that goes across? You're already saying it's okay to use that because it's undeeded land that the town, that you folks in the town don't have a deed for because you never surveyed it, and you own it. It's not on the big list. You own that land. And
Right, the
everything-
building itself,
everything-
Peter, is on the land with the
Right.
conservation restriction.
Right, but everything
And we've talked
towards...
to OPECM,
Yep.
and they're not in favor of entering a conversation about amending the deed restriction.
Right, because that's what the CR says. They don't play the first card. They wait for you to play the first card. They're saying what the restriction says. They can't do a thing unless you ask them to be open to discuss an amendment. And that amendment takes attorneys and years. So I understand. I'm just saying it was a viable thing to look at, but there's another thing you could have done to it, but it takes years, and we don't have years. We already put 7 years into this.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, Ken, you want to talk?
Good evening, Ken Benson at 102 Cedar Street, and I've been a resident there for 36 years. I noticed on the engineer's traffic report, he mentioned that there's no severe recording of accidents on Cedar Street. I have very deep concerns about that. It is the street is very dangerous. Cars are speeding up and down continuously, and people are developments up the street, and they come down Cedar and try to get the light. And I'll give you some examples. My wife was going down Cedar Street and past Cedar Pond Road where the incline is. She had to pull over to the right. A car came flying up over the hill and sideswiped her. My neighbor one day went down, same area, got head-on. Someone came over the stripe. We've had at least 8 accidents in front of my house. And at the top of the hill, 4 houses up, there's a sign that says, slow down 30 miles an hour. When I back out of my driveway, I have to look to the back, the left and right, and the cars are zipping. Years ago, I talked to Chief Ford, and he put a traffic stop. I must have seen, the officer parked in Country Hill, and I was just watching cars stop left and right. But very concerned, down in that area, either seniors trying to come out of there or anybody coming out of Cedar Pond Road, that there's going to be another accident. Terrible. Someone hit the stone wall in front of my house. Someone flipped a car, a drunk, right across the street from me. We had a cat killed in front of one of our cats. The speeding is continuous, and I definitely don't think that it's a good spot to have the facility, and somebody's going to get hit, and that's my point.
Thank you.
Needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Ken. Does anyone else have any other information? Not yet.
No.
Not yet. You can tell me. It's fine. Tara Linton, 7 Seneca Lane. I just want to make sure that everyone in the room, because I don't think that everyone in the room realizes that the Recreation Committee voted to move forward with a field at 60 Cedar Street. So while you think it's a nice, quiet place, they're proposing a ball field, a multi-purpose field for 60 Cedar Street with, I believe, at least 50 parking spots. So you might think it's quiet now, which I don't agree with, actually, but there is a field that will be voted on at the next special town meeting for that property that is right next to the proposed location for the senior center. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
That green box at the bottom of that picture, that's the proposed field.
Mary, question?
Craig?
You're talking about 60 Cedar Street for a ball field. And we've got a situation going on with this horse park, where they talked about giving the town 5 ball fields. I don't know how close we are with that, or if anything's gonna come of it, or what the situation is, but I mean, we spent 5 years doing this thing. We're gonna spend 5 years getting a ballpark, but it'd be nice if we're gonna get 5 from these people, we don't have to build a ballpark.
Yeah, but that's down the road. Legislature has to pass off-site gambling first. If they don't pass it for all sports, it's a no-go. And it's quite, no, but thank you. But they do, they are moving forward with the field. And it was, 2020 town meeting that appropriated Okay, Mary?
I just want to point out that 60 Cedar Street has been in the care, custody, and control of the Recreation Committee for many, many, many years. That has not, I know that there's disagreement with respect to 70 Cedar Street, and I get that. Legally, there's no deed restriction, and that is legally where you look for in terms of determining whether or not it's conservation, and there's nothing that says conservation. I understand that perhaps, as Mike Supranat pointed out, that was the intention. It didn't legally find its way in the deed. So 70 is a little bit different, but I don't think anyone can really claim that 60 Cedar Street was intended to be conservation land in the same way that you're claiming 70 is, because that, again, has been in the care, custody, and control of, and I know this isn't about 60 tonight, but since you raised it, Tara, I just want people to know that that has been for many years in the care, custody, and control of the Recreation Committee. And so there is that difference between the 60 and the 70. But I would just like to, you know, say something. I don't know if it's appropriate at this point or not, but I mean, it seems like there's
To close the public hearing.
Yeah, let's roll.
Since we've opened up Pandora's box, is that all right?
Yes, come down, please.
Because I think, I mean, honestly, it's a bigger picture issue. Steve Sexton again, 51 Seneca Lane, right? So, again, going back to June 7, and I realize it was proposed by the rec committee, but it was the vote to spend on feasibility of the vision concept for 60 and 70 Cedar Street together, right? Broader vision, right? That vote was turned down, yet we are still proceeding forward with at least part of that, right? Whatever the technicalities, legalities, and everything else, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, as a number of citizens at that town vote, clearly there was a lot of opposition to doing major development, right, because of all the grave impacts that people have talked about here tonight. That's the primary concern, I think, on behalf of many of the people when you hear the rounds of applause that come up here, right? So I think we need to be considerate of that, right? Relative to a town that frankly has a lot of land, and everyone talks about it, yet somehow we have tons of land, but we have no land. It's an amazing concept, right? It really is. So
Well, there's a lot of conservation restrictions.
we seem to find conservation all the time. We really do.
We do,
right?
town meeting votes to buy it.
Yeah, and then somehow magically on the back end, we didn't do our justice because we have a process which is not well thought and done in the right order, and we end up wasting time and money. I'm sorry. It's a bad process.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to, I just
Yeah.
want to go back to the 60, 70 and the feasibility, because I did get a lot of letters, and I tried to respond to everybody, and my apologies if I didn't get to everybody that wrote to us. I just want to apologize. No one town meeting is more important than another town meeting, right? I mean, town meeting, whether it's 2020 or 2019, that town meeting's just as important as the one that comes before it or behind it.
Yep.
So the year before, as far as 60, because we've opened up 60, so I'm just going to say it, 60 Cedar Street's feasibility study was approved the year before. Maybe a lot of Cedar Street residents didn't go to that town meeting, but other people did, and they voted, and I want to say it was definitely a majority vote. I can't say by how much of a majority, but I want to think it was pretty strong, pretty strong. Those people's votes are just as important as the people who voted in 2021. And so 60 as a feasibility study was already approved at the town meeting the year before, okay, the year before. So when everybody says nobody is listening to the residents, we voted down, this year, what they wanted to do, because they're also interested in 70. Unfortunately, we have two groups, both of which have needs, that were interested in the same lot of land, which is unfortunate because it pulls the town apart, and I don't like to see that happen. So their study this year was to look at 60 and 70 together to see what they could do in terms of recreation. That definitely got voted down. 70 was voted down as far as recreation goes. But 60, isolated for just 60, was approved at the previous town meeting by a majority of the people present. So when we say that they're going to go forward, yes, because they were given the go-ahead with the authority of the town meeting from the year before. So that's just the way. And so for us to say, well, this year, we made it very clear that we don't want a feasibility on 60 and 70, and everybody did in a very articulate way.
Yep.
They already had the go-ahead the year before. So that town meeting gave them the authority.
Yep.
So I just want to clarify that, because I don't know who attended town meeting the year before. But the feasibility for 60 was approved by majority vote at town meeting the year before. So it should come as no surprise if that Recreation Committee comes forward with the appropriation to do something with 60. Everybody's welcome to attend town meeting and vote it down if you don't want to. But they definitely were given the green light at the town meeting by majority vote the year before as far as 60 Cedar Street goes. So I just want to put that
Understand
out there.
that. At the
Okay.
same time, for the record too, we have a finance committee who also recommended we don't even proceed with more of these because
That was
they use
60 and
terms-
70.
16, right. but
I
it's-
don't know, I don't know that the year before that the
But it's-
finance committee voted down 60.
No,
But it is this.
They approved it. That was their motion the year
But is this
before.
continual progression, and many have said it, there is just feasibility spending fatigue, and we keep doing this, and we kind of go around in circles.
I agree.
Well,
We
I
spend a
agree.
lot of taxes in
No,
this town,
it is-
and we're getting nowhere.
It is a circle, but a feasibility study is necessary. You have to know.
So do it right, and let's do it with the right scope.
Excuse me.
Right.
You know, I take offense at that. We try our best and we do it right.
Well, we don't seem to be getting too far, right?
Well,
We're having a
because-
lot of
Well, we
debate.
are.
I think it's time to build something. That's why we're here. It's time to build something.
Okay.
And does anyone else have anything different to add? Because we've been at this 2 hours and 10 minutes, and not that it's not, we do have a lot of other business this evening.
Okay. My name is Kathleen Moore, 1 Seneca Lane. Thanks for your patience. I would just first like to ask, how hard would it be to put a traffic light at the intersection of Route 20 and Arnold Road?
Well, that's always the decision
Why would
of
it
the
be hard to
state
put a
DOT.
Let the engineer go.
It's a great question, and I know that the seniors would actually appreciate that if it was there. We took a look at that. What happens, in order to install a traffic signal, it has to pass a series of tests by the state, what they call warrants. And there's very specific criteria that are outlined there. In this case, it doesn't meet the warrants to install a traffic signal.
Okay, and to give you a little background on that, years ago when we asked for light there, the state said, maybe you should try to do something on your town road before we address that, because it didn't meet the criteria. So that's when the right-hand turn lane was put in by the town to alleviate, before it had only one lane coming out.
Okay, so you're saying that currently it doesn't meet the criteria? Okay, and what exactly are the criteria?
There's a whole list of them. I can certainly go through the town to get you what those lists are, but they
Okay.
are spelled out by the Mass.
Okay, is it dependent upon the traffic flow, or?
Traffic flow, traffic volume.
Traffic accident.
Turning
number-
movements,
turning movements.
accident rates.
There's a bunch of different criteria that are listed out.
Okay, because it seems like just up the road at Dunkin' Donuts, there's so many car accidents. We all know that. I mean, wouldn't that impact the criteria for a traffic light there? Because that certainly would slow down the traffic.
I'm not really sure how to answer that question.
Okay.
It's the Commonwealth
Maybe
of
you don't have all the
Massachusetts.
information.
It's the Commonwealth, it's not us.
It's very unfortunate because a lot of residents, and even on New Boston Road, to cross over is awful. And but residents get frustrated, but so do we, because unfortunately Sturbridge, unlike a lot of towns, our main downtown areas are state-owned highways. So it's not up to us to put a traffic light. I'd love to put one on New Boston Road. I don't like to cross over that every time I want to go to.
Can't we petition the state?
So this is, we know Route 20 is state-owned, 131 is state-owned, so I'm just.
Okay, so there's
We're-
nothing we
we're
can do
limited
there? We
as
can't
well.
petition the state for that?
I don't
Always
know.
constantly
I don't know.
asking.
Yeah.
DPW directors through the years have been constant.
And we are building the roundabout, I mean, the state's building the roundabout at 131 and 20, and that doesn't seem like it would have an impact, but that'll have an impact. And there's other traffic projects going on over the next 10, 20 years. That could
Okay,
have-
so maybe further down the road, we would be able to put a traffic light there.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Because
It's a-
it seems like the
it's a very
road
complicated process.
would increase the traffic.
Yeah, and your questions are all questions we have and frustrations.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And secondly, I'd like to say that I really liked the plan for the rehab over at the, at 480. It practically made the building, I know how old it is right now, but it seemed like it practically made the building a new building. It seemed like a new building when I saw your plan, and I liked it a lot. And also, I'd like to say that, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't more two-story senior centers being built than one-story because it's actually takes less energy to go up an elevator than actually walk down long corridors from one area to another?
So unfortunately, our architect had to leave due to personal reasons, but we have shared in previous public information sessions that, and I myself, an architect by trade, you can build anything anywhere. In Cambridge, I think theirs is a 3-story because they have a tiny city block parcel, and the parcel dictated what they must do. So as you get further to rural Western Massachusetts, you get more toward the 1-story model. And you see more of the single-floor senior centers for the purpose of accessibility and the ability for the seniors to walk. So it all depends on site selection and what's available and the desire to stay. Location, location, location will always dictate your plan, so whether 1 or 2.
Okay, so as someone who has neurological problems in my legs, I would have actually rather ride up an elevator than walk down a long corridor. Also, I'd like to say that less space is needed for a 2-story building. So if whatever site you chose, if you put a 2-story building, you would actually be able to consolidate the parking in a smaller space, correct?
Potentially, yes.
Correct, okay. I think that's all.
Thank
you.
Okay, Mary, you had.
Yeah, I just feel like at some point it's time for us to kind of be honest and say which way, we're leaning. I don't think we're making a decision tonight, but I want to be honest with everybody. I don't think that, with the exception of this last resident, people really looked at some of the advantages of where our current senior center is. With all due respect, I am not in favor of starting all over again and making any committee take another 7 years to get something done. I've watched it happen with the Recreation Committee. They've been trying to get additional fields since, my son was 10 years old, and now he's 2 years out of college. And I don't want to see that happen to the current seniors. With all due respect, buying a new parcel of land, we're still going to put a 12,000 square foot building on the new land. So unless the land is gifted to us, I really don't understand how it would cost less money to go out and buy another parcel of land, because it looks like from the feasibility study, whether it was on Haynes Street or Cedar Street, it was going to cost roughly $10 million. We'll put 480 on hold for a minute because that was a renovation and addition. But those are 2 new buildings, and it's $10 million. So why we think by starting over again and going out and getting another request for private citizens like we did in 2018 or 17, they're not going to just deed us the land. We're going to pay something for it. Even if we pay $100,000 for it, which I know is not realistic, but I'm picking a low figure, it's still going to cost $10 million to put this building on it. So I don't understand how that's economically a more prudent course of action. So I do take issue with anybody that says we haven't done our due diligence. I don't see how anybody's saying, here, take it, we have a gift of 4 acres of land, centrally located, flat, no pushback, not in a residential neighborhood, and we're still going to face these architects telling us that what we want is going to cost roughly $10 million. So I wanted to start by saying that. And I also want to say, I took a direct quote from the engineer that said, all accommodate the current and future growth of the town. So if we did renovate and add on to our current senior center, it's not just for the current seniors. He said it will accommodate future growth of the town. So, I am committed to the seniors. I want to see us with increased space and increased services, and the baby boomers are aging. I agree with all of the above. But when we built Burgess, okay, we went through the same thing. Do you find a new location and build a brand-new building? And to me, that mirrors very much what they are proposing, and I know it wasn't the senior committee's choice. I understand that. But Burgess, they tore down the super old section that was from the 1960s, and they took the 1970s portion of it and repurposed it. They gutted the whole thing. Those were open classrooms concepts, and it's entirely different now. That building was gutted, and it's beautiful, I think. And they kept the same footprint. They didn't leave. When we chose to renovate the town, we had the same debate when we were going to renovate Town Hall and Center Office Building, and we almost ended up with a Butler Building on Route 20 because people wanted a whole new piece of property. And I, for one, am very happy that we renovated the Town Hall and Center Office Building. I think they're beautiful. I think this gives us a little sense of community because we've got our Town Hall here, our library here, our post office, in a town that really doesn't have a downtown. We have that nice, and we contemplated the same thing, going entirely elsewhere. So I just don't think enough of us gave any thought. We gave a lot of thought to 70, but I don't think any of us gave enough thought to how amazing a job we could do on our current footprint with that 5,000 square foot addition. It's got a 2,000 square foot multi-use room. It's got a 1,500 square foot room, exercise yoga room. It's got a patio. And it will accommodate the services that we want because the architect said it would. The only drawback, and I get it, is it doesn't have the capability of hiking trails. It doesn't have that. But it's as big a building, in fact, it's bigger, but it's not usable, 16,000 square feet. It's a 12,000 square foot building. It's centrally located. This wouldn't be a lot of money, but I also think that it would cost less because we do have to do something. There's no appetite in this town to sell to sell the senior center. I mean, we tried to either lease or sell the old fire department, fire building 2 years ago, and there's a lot of sentimentality that was attached to that building. They didn't even want a long-term lease. So that's sitting and doing nothing. So we go elsewhere, either at 70 Cedar Street or Haynes if we move the CR, which is a legal hurdle. People are not going to want to sell that historic building in our town. And so we are going to have a plan for it. And so it would be more expensive as a hidden cost because we're going to have an operating cost to keep that building going. Even if it ends up being administrative offices, that's going to cost something. So building someplace else will cost more because we're not going to sell the current senior center. Sure. That's just the way that is. And it wouldn't be a lot of money, but I think this is another positive. Because it's historic, our CPA money could be used towards some of that renovation. I even contacted our chair. She agreed, the chair of the CPC. I looked on, you can go online, by the way, and see how any of our CPA money is used by Googling communitypreservation.org. It's a town website. Not a town website, it's a state website. And every year, what we spent our money on, and any town spent their CPC money on. So I went back and looked at it, and when we did these two buildings, they gave $950,000. It wasn't even bond, because we had it earmarked towards historic preservation. And then another 2 years later, I forgot what years I wrote them down, but 2007 and 2009, I believe. We gave another $550,000. So in all, it was bonded. We gave about 1.6 of CPC money to renovate these two buildings. So there is money in the CPC account. It would have to be voted in, and I don't know what that committee thinks of it. But that could also be used towards some, which wasn't, obviously, you didn't know, it wasn't part of the feasibility. But there's some money there. They've got 300,000, I think. I looked in the FinCom report from 2022. They've got about 300,000, and there's about 1.1 million in funds that are what's called undesignated, which means it could be used for historic, affordable housing, or open space. So there is some money there, maybe 500,000, I don't know, but that helps bring the price tag down. So I do think, I know our minds aren't made up tonight, but there were some positives that I was hoping residents would come forward and mention associated with 480 Main Street. But it seems that we've only stressed the negatives of Cedar Street by all the people who live in that neighborhood and all the positives of Cedar Street. And then we've one person said it's the lesser of the evils. No, I mean, I think our current location has a lot of positive attributes, and it can accommodate the future growth because that's what the feasibility study said it could do. It doesn't have the trails, and I get that. But other than that, it accommodates the services. It's got 65 spots. There's no parking lot, but we did buy land across the street, which we are making into a parking lot, which I don't know, some of you might, I think, Chase, you said maybe there's 40 spaces there. 25. 25. So, using the crosswalk, when there's overflow to hit the 88, that's going to be a parking lot, and it's at that end of town. So I just wanted to say, I think there are, and I think people are, I'm very committed to doing something for the seniors. But I also think we have to put something forward that we think might pass. Because that's just the political reality that is not in the feasibility study. And when you're going into a neighborhood that's, regardless of how it's zoned, it's heavily residential. It's got the speed sign that says 30 miles an hour, thickly settled. There's houses all over there. We're going to get pushback. And if we try to go to another neighborhood off, another area, where I live, off of Fisk Hill, you're going to get pushback from neighbors who think they're in a residential neighborhood with houses, not wanting a large facility, whether it's a senior center or a community center or a youth center or assisted living, because they have houses and they want to try to keep it as residential as possible. And they're going to come out in droves at that special town meeting. And I want to see something done. And I don't want to see another 7 years go by. But I think some of us really undermined just how beautiful that building could be. It's going to be gutted. It's not going to be a 150-year-old, school. I think it's I think if you can keep an historic building and bring it up to current state-of-the-art standards, that is beautiful. And so I think there's just a lot of pluses, including being more palatable at a town meeting. And I don't want to see things get voted down. Like recreation has been voted down for years.
Is there a motion then to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, now, what's the board's prerogative on moving forward?
Personally, if I may, Madam Chair, I agree with everything Selectman Dowling just said, and I think we should move 480 Main Street as the site for the senior center. And I would just add that everybody here who's clapping right now should go to the town meeting and support voting for the senior center. Because it isn't all just clapping and making sure you didn't get that didn't happen in your yard. It's making sure you support your seniors. So, not to get... I'll lead the charge. Good. So, but that was my thought. I think we should move...
Well, is that a motion?
Well, not yet. I want to make sure everybody...
You're free to make a motion anytime.
All right, let me see. The framing, I don't have the paperwork.
Just simply move forward? with-
Yeah, I vote to move to renovate 480 Main Street.
Renovate and addition.
In addition, yeah, I moved to renovate 480, the senior center at 480 Main Street and provide an addition as contemplated in the feasibility study.
Second.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, the easy part. Is there any discussion?
Just wanna say, I know I talk so much. I just thank you for that motion. I'm going to obviously support it. I also had in my head for a while, for several months, you know what? Well, we put both of them in, right? Give people the choice. But the more I didn't sleep on that idea, that just adds to confusion. It adds to confusion because what happens is if one article said renovate and add on, and then the next article said new construction at 70 Cedar, for example, people are going to hold off, not vote to renovate, because maybe their first choice is a new location. They're going to hold off. The first one's not going to get voted in, and then the second one is also not going to get voted in, and you're going to have people walk away and say, oh, had I known that this wasn't going to carry the day, I would have at least voted to renovate and add on. So that, I just want to say, that's why putting two is not, ends up a big risk of nothing happening. And I think that you have done a great job, and I'm sorry that it's not what you were recommending, but I do feel it's a beautiful floor plan, and I think it stands a good chance of passing. And that's really what we need to do as policymakers, is if we really want to help the seniors, we have to put something forward that we think will actually pass town meeting. So,
Okay, before we take a vote, I just want to express my opinion. I was on the study committee from the beginning up until about the last year because of knees. From the very beginning, I was in favor of renovating the existing building. I can see where the committee moved forward with 70 Cedar Street because it's the ideal, but we can't always get the ideal. I taught at Burgess for years, and when I go in there now, I'm totally lost. I mean, it was such a wonderful job they did renovating and putting an addition on. So I fully support the motion, and I would again like to express thanks to the committee that put so much effort into your work. We have a motion, a second. Any more discussion?
Can I say something? Or not?
No. Well,
It doesn't matter at this point, but I just want to say, if this is the best that the board feels that they can give the seniors, I so support it. We just need something. And I think we said this right along, that they deserve something. So if the board feels this is the best that they can give the seniors in town, I think that's great.
Yeah. No, but it is, and then I also had wanted to say this also was, as John said, a perfect case of NIMBY.
Yeah.
You know, I felt.
feel that everybody that is
You don't,
should support us.
you can frown at me, that's okay, but that's my opinion.
Well-
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Okay, so, motion, second, discussion, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Still has a ways to go.
We have some
I know
more
it.
meeting if anybody wants to stay.
Well, I see the fire
Take
chief,
that if you want. I have it digitally, so I don't need it.
you know? Mary?
If you want to hang on to it and you want to like throw it out of the
Yeah. Okay, we're
You
gonna
leave it
take,
with me, we'll like.
Chase, Ian, we're gonna take a 10-minute,
We're not
Ken,
There you go.
we got something though. Hey, what? Oh.
Democracy at work.
Sorry, didn't get the ideal, but, so, oh yeah.
I think it'll fly. I think it'll fly.
You'll be surprised. I mean, Burgess was the same way. Burgess was the same way. I can go in there and not even know where I am. Well, that's,
Of course.
yeah, but,
But hold your head high, because you did your due diligence. Don't let anyone think that you didn't.
okay, we're taking 10, because I haven't eaten yet. The way it's going, I'm not, I'll just hit the line. Yeah, but my rate was so controlled. Me too.
I do have a question for you.
Sure.
37 and 39 Westwood is looking to get tied in.
Yeah.
Are they going to pay the same betterment we all would pay?
No.
Because there is no,
I just think that, yeah.
tie-ins there.
No, I know. I forget how, I forget, no, I forget. They don't pay the betterment. There's a 7,500 privilege fee.
So we have to pay the 21,000, but they only pay 7,500.
Yeah.
guys are doing a
And you've had use of it all these years. No, that's the way the sewer bylaw reads. But they have to pay 7,500.
Because they started clearing the lot. It's driving
Well,
me. I know, they can. I knew that. But I just wondered what they were.
No, it's, because at one time it was to be. I didn't, and I don't.
It's all tough.
From here? Okay. I'll just start by introducing myself. My name is Michelle Leglisi. I am actually a Munson resident, but I'm one of the founding members of the Massachusetts Residents Against Crumbling Concrete, which you see up there on the screen. And I'm here in support of Bill and Kelly and every other homeowner in all the surrounding towns. And I'll make this as quick as we can, because you guys have had a long night tonight. So if we could go to the next slide. There you go, thank you. You'll see here on the left-hand side is a sample of concrete affected by pyrrhotite. Pyrrhotite is the mineral that's causing foundations in our area to crack and crumble, which is really an awful thing to have happen. And the picture on the right is a picture of an actual foundation in Wales, Mass. That home is in dire need of a replacement of its foundation. So, you know, we kind of take that as our poster child for sure, because it's one of the worst I've seen. But this happens because of the mineral in aggregate that was sourced out of a quarry from Wellington, Connecticut, and poured in our area by a company out of Stafford Springs, Connecticut, J.J. Modis, from 1983 to around 2015. So that's a lot of homes. I can't speak for Sturbridge how many homes were built in that time frame, but it's something you may want to look into. Munson has done that, and we estimate in Munson 350 to 400 homes were built during that time frame. Granted, not every, or no, excuse me, 1,000 homes, so they feel that 350 to 400 were likely poured by this company. So that's an issue. So if we go to the next slide. And you can see by this map, where is pyrrhotite other than in Wellington, Connecticut? Look at Massachusetts, see that red area? In any of that area, according to the University of Massachusetts that created this map, could contain pyrrhotite. So we are working at identifying any other quarries in the state, because we feel that there's got to be one here in Massachusetts. We are starting to see homes in Holden, Rutland, Barry, Grafton, and particularly those communities north of Worcester. It's unlikely that that came from Connecticut, because it's all, you know, if you know anything about concrete, it can only stay in the truck for so long. And it has to
be poured. So it's unlikely that those came from Connecticut, so we figure there's a Massachusetts source. So that is that's being researched now. But we can move on to the next slide. This slide shows you in the bottom right corner this home in Holden, before it was lifted and the foundation was replaced. A beautiful place. And then you see where the home is lifted, and on the left-hand side, you'll see how the home is supported. They were in the process of getting ready to lift the home, and that structure that gentleman is standing on is called cribbing, and that's how they support the house while the foundation's being torn out and replaced. This home here just recently was completed, and it cost the homeowners $280,000 to do this job. Can we move on, please? How do you know if your home is affected by this mineral? Well, there's a few things you can look for. Horizontal cracking is something that is a hallmark to this issue. And the real only way to know is to get it core tested. I mean, you can have a structural engineer come in and give you some advice if what you have in your foundation is more likely to be just structural settlement cracking, or could it be this issue? But the only way to know for sure is to have it core tested. And these photos show my foundation actually being core tested. They drill out that section that you see there and send it off and have the test done at Trinity College in Connecticut. And then you get a full report back telling you the percentage and shows you where on their graph you fall and all of the testing that they've done. We move on to the next slide, please.
Can I ask a quick question? Mary, what is the cost of that core test?
Well, it depends on where you have it done and how you have it done. You can get what's called a petrographic analysis done, and they are much more expensive. They go up to like $5,000 for 2 cores. The core test that my husband and I chose to do is, it doesn't give you as much information. It tells you how much pyrrhotite you have, because really that is what you need to know for this issue. You know, how long it's been degrading is not an issue at this point. If you have pyrrhotite, you have this problem. If you have cracking, it's caused by the pyrrhotite. So why are we advocating for help right now? Because there's no recourse. There's no insurance coverage for this. If you look at your homeowner's policy, you'll see there's no coverage for foundations. But just 6 months before my husband and I found out about our foundation, our policy was changed to only cover an abrupt collapse of the home. And if you knew of an issue that could cause a collapse and you don't mitigate it, then you're still not covered. So the only way to mitigate this is to replace the foundation. And that's not going to be covered by your insurance. There's no recourse to sue the company. That's been tried in Connecticut. The reason that these lawsuits failed was because there's no test for pyrrhotite in the aggregate. They still don't test for it. Connecticut just passed legislation to begin quarry testing so that we can stop it from happening again. And the law that we are asking our legislature to pass now in Massachusetts includes quarry testing. So that's something that we really want to see happen. But we, as homeowners affected, have nowhere to turn. And the cost to replace a foundation are anywhere from $150,000 to over $300,000, depending upon the home. So what do we do next? Next slide, please. Well, the state put together a special commission. We held 5 meetings, and we created a report, came up with a bunch of recommendations, and there's a copy of it on the right side of that slide. It's the front cover of the report. It was done in December of 2019. Here we are almost 2 years later, and now we have some legislation pending. Next slide, please. And we've been advocating with our legislators. This is a visit from April 6th out in Wales to do 2 different homes. The picture that you saw earlier that was so bad was from the home on the right-hand side here. We've really been trying to raise awareness, and that's one of the reasons we're here tonight. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is a 2-part slide. On the left are all of the recommendations from the special commission. There's 10 of them. There was actually more that we came up with, but these were the main 10 that we were hoping for. Can we go to the next, please? And here, on the right side of this slide, you will see included in Senate Bill S-548, it's called an act relative to crumbling concrete foundations, are a number of these, or half of the list. A couple of them are to standardize property tax abatements, because as homeowners find out that they have this problem, they will want to get their home taxes abated. Their home has now lost its value. Our bank, we went to our bank when we found out to see what we could do, and they said, well, you can't get a home equity loan. You have no equity in your home. The only equity you have is in the land that it sits on. So you're going to see that happen. Being new to Massachusetts, many towns have no idea what to do with this. So we want to standardize that. We also want to eliminate permit fees for replacing the foundation, because let's face it, we already paid for that once. And having to do it again is just, it's a small thing. The permit is not usually very expensive, but to ask the homeowner to do that again is just, it's a small thing to give up. Seller disclosures. This is really important. Think if you have a child or you yourself are looking at a new home and you have no idea that that home, say it's built in 2010, it's not showing any signs. You get an inspection on the home, which unfortunately these days many people are waiving, and it shows nothing. So you think you're good. Another 10 years later, you've got a problem on your hands. But that owner knew, because they knew where the concrete came from. Some do, some don't. Sellers need to be upfront with this. They shouldn't be selling a home to someone else with this problem. Quarry standards, obviously we discussed that already, that's a big issue, but the biggest item on the list is that top one, enabling a captive insurance company to operate in Massachusetts. In Connecticut, they already have this. They've replaced almost 400 foundations. Massachusetts doesn't have it in our law to allow that type of insurance company to operate. It's not like you go and you buy an insurance policy and you're covered now. This is set up specifically as a mechanism to manage funding that is put in by the government for a particular purpose. And this would manage the whole process, and that's what they've done in Connecticut. They vet contractors, they put homeowners in priority order, all of that, manage the funding. So those are the things that are in this bill. Now how do we get it passed? Next slide, please. And this is where we come to you and ask for your help as a homeowner, as a neighbor, as a select board member. Some support for the bill. We need to get the bill a hearing this fall. Otherwise, as I'm sure many of you know, if the bill doesn't get a hearing, it just dies in committee. And right now, this bill is in committee and we need it to have a hearing so it can be hopefully then voted out favorably and move through the legislative process. If it doesn't get a hearing and doesn't get voted out of committee, it goes nowhere, and we wait even longer. And that poor homeowner in Wales, I don't know how much longer his home will stay. So, and you know what? You have homes here in Sturbridge in this position. We're all so close to the Connecticut border that that's, is that mine? Oh, no, okay, sorry. Oh, got mine here. So anyway, what we're here for is to ask you as a board on town letterhead to send a letter to the chairs of this committee that are listed on this slide in support of Bill S-548, an act relative to crumbling concrete foundations, and join other towns that have done so. Munson, Wales, Brimfield, Holland, Longmeadow, East Longmeadow, Charlton have all voted to do so, and we have other towns coming up after you to go to with the same presentation and ask for their support as well. If you could vote that tonight and ask your administrative assistant to do that, I would so appreciate it. I would be glad to share a copy of the letter if you don't already have it, that they have been using. It's worded well. It says just what we need it to, if you're willing.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
No, sounds great.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
What were those years? And I'm just,
1983 to 2015. In 2015.
I'm just thinking about my house.
I know, everybody does.
Bingo. Right in there.
I was just saying to Bill and Kelly tonight, I feel like the Grim Reaper, going from town to town, sharing this information, telling people the years that they need to be concerned about. But if we don't stand up and require that our legislators do something, then Massachusetts will get left out of something that's been done in Connecticut, Ireland, and Canada. One town in Canada had over 3,000 homes in one community that had to be replaced. Ireland's replacing the whole house. They're taking the roof off and replacing the whole house because the house is built out of these blocks that contain this mineral. So, you know, I guess if we're replacing just foundations, I guess we should consider ourselves lucky. Hard to say that, but it's a very hard thing to go through, so I feel awful bringing it to attention, but if we don't, we'll be stuck here, and we'll have homes that actually collapse. I just don't think we should be doing that.
Okay, how's the board feel? Somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to draft a letter and that the Board of Selectmen endorse it on behalf of the Crumbling Foundations Committee.
Okay, to get a hearing on S548
Yes.
and vote it out favorably. Jeff, you want to, or do you want their,
Yeah, if you can send us a sample,
If I could get your email, I'd be glad to do that.
give
I'll
you
send
my
it to you in the
business
morning.
card, if you can.
You got to get a second, Mary.
yes, I know.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
It's only at the
It's
beginning of
late.
the meeting I slipped.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
is there a second to the motion?
I will second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Sorry
being
I
here.
took
Thank you for
so long.
sitting through the longest meeting of the year, yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Bill, you're used to it.
I'm retired, so.
Well, you
It's
used
like
to
a
be used
collection of
to it.
elementary school teachers.
Yeah, I know. Okay, next on the agenda, Town Administrator's Department report.
Time, we'll hold that to the end. What?
I mean, that's true. Get these other people out of here.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's okay with me. I mean, it's not that detailed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we just get it done.
What?
I think just get it done, right?
Yeah, just whip through it. It's,
Okay, hold on.
we'll,
8 Brookfield Road, we did solicit bids or proposals for reuse of the property, no takers. So, next step, perhaps, talk about demoing it and creating another parking area, or leaving it as is. It's not really habitable or usable, so that's where we are. Heritage Green sidewalk, we had a conversation about that several months ago, about building a sidewalk for the residents of Heritage Green to get to the grocery store. We have one proposal, we're waiting on another one before we bring it to the board. Charter revision, charter says every 5 years. It's been, I think, 6 since the committee was formed. So I don't know how you selected committee members before, but we're happy to engage in that process for the board.
yeah, we had, we advertised and people solicited their intentions and we interviewed and appointed.
Okay, would you like?
Also, that's how it's worked out each time. Also on Sandra Quigley Gibson, it's the other way around.
Okay,
Sandra Gibson Quigley.
all right,
Doug
Sorry.
wouldn't like it.
okay. So would you like us to advertise?
Yes.
And you asked me to bring this up, board, to the planning board on the 28th for the hearing. For the
Yes, the planning board's having their public hearing on the equine center bylaw. And if there's any changes proposed, it would be up to the Board of Selectmen to vote on them, seeing as we were the petitioners. So the planning board has asked us to attend the meeting,
What's the date for that?
the 28th.
It'll be at Burgess Elementary School.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect.
is everyone available?
Is that for a day? Tuesday.
please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mary?
Why not?
Hold on, what day of the week is that?
Tuesday.
Okay.
Planning board always meets on
Right,
Tuesdays.
Yep.
Ian, you're available?
Yeah, that'll make it an even month of me losing a day to stuff for this, so it's fine. Get it all in this month.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm available and less salty than Ian about it.
Okay, so we can post that then.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair, unless there's any questions.
Okay, next we have consideration on a special permit for the Ox Trot race for Old Sturbridge Academy. Any questions on that?
Is there anyone here representing Old Sturbridge Village? Yeah. Okay.
Sorry we kept you up. I don't know, yeah, you might as well since you stayed.
Everybody else had their time tonight.
Yeah. 5 minutes of fame.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm the race director for the Ox Trot. So it's to benefit the students at Old Sturbridge Academy Charter School. And we're just hoping that we can get approval on the race permit today.
Can we get your name, please?
My name is Kat Torville.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's 7 in the morning to 9:30?
Yes.
Okay, any questions from the board? Somebody want to make a motion then?
I request that we approve the, what are we looking for?
Application.
Yeah, an application. I would approve the application for license for the Ox Trot race for the Old Sturbridge Village Academy.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. All in favor? Okay.
Did you have one last year? Is this the first time you're doing this?
We had a virtual event last year because of COVID.
Oh, that's what I
Yes,
thought.
but it's our fourth
Okay.
annual.
I didn't know what it was for, but I knew you had had it before.
Yeah.
How many participants do you typically get?
I think our last race was like almost 200. We were just under 200.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been really good. So we're hoping it's going to be
You're all
better.
Yeah.
You're all set.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Alex, you'll let us know when it's ready and we'll be in to sign. Okay, next on the agenda, consideration for adding 37 and 39 Westwood Drive on the sewer connection reserve list. Any questions from the board on that?
Butch Jackson is listening at home, if you have any questions for the DPW director.
Yeah.
Butch, are you there?
I'm here.
Wake up. Yeah, you have no problem with this, Butch, right?
No, the sewer line goes right by the two lots. I'm actually surprised it's not on the reserve list, but no, there's no
Yeah.
problem with it whatsoever.
Okay, questions from the board? Is there a motion then?
I'll make a motion to authorize sewer service for the lots at 37 and 39 Westwood Drive.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Easy. Thanks, Butch.
Okay.
Thank you, Butch.
Good night, Butch. It's going to snow tonight.
Say that, say again?
No, let's not do that.
Can't be repeated. Okay, next, consideration and action on the confirmation of Jennifer Shearer to the Trails Committee.
Yes, this resident expressed interest. She attended the last Trails Committee meeting, seemed to fit in well and had great input. So ask you confirm her appointment to the Trails Committee.
Okay, questions from the board? Motion.
I will move to confirm the appointment of Jennifer Shearer to the Trails Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. All in favor? Okay, next we have a request for a one-day liquor license for Hamilton Rod and Gun Club at the Harvest Festival on 16th.
Hardwick Winery first.
Hardwick
Hardwick
Winery's
Winery.
first. Yep.
Then
think it's
Hamilton
Witcher
Road.
Road.
You got
Oh.
one more before it.
Yeah, I already checked it off. We don't have to get to it.
It's a good thing.
For Hardwick.
Mary made a unilateral decision.
Trying to, yeah, almost, trying to get ahead. Okay, for Hardwick Winery for the Harvest Festival, October 16th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the 17th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, their wine, and it will be consumed off-premise. Okay, it's been approved by the police chief. Any questions, comments? Is there a motion?
I will move to approve the application of the Hardwick Winery for a special one-day liquor license, subject to their adjusting their liquor license insurance so that the town is listed as additionally insured for the relevant period.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you. See you at the festival.
You're all set?
Thank you for your patience.
Just for the record, I'm in favor of the older buildings myself.
See that shirt.
I'll sell you my house.
See
Next, possible action on a one-day liquor license for Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. Okay, this is for their Halloween party, October 16th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Questions, comments? Good evening again. Okay, somebody willing to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move to approve the one-day liquor license for the Halloween party at the Hamilton Rod and Gun Club on 10/16/2021.
Okay, it's already been approved by the police chief. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? 4 and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Take care. Enjoy.
Yeah, have fun.
Okay. F, we're skipping over.
Yep.
Okay, next, consideration of acceptance and authorization for use of a donation to the Sturbridge Fire Department. Okay. I just messed up. It was a donation of $50 to the Sturbridge Fire Department. Chief Grasso recommends its acceptance with gratitude and authorized expenditure. Is there a motion to approve, to accept?
I will make a motion to accept the gift with thanks and authorize the use thereof.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next, consideration of the appointment of Mark Whiting as full-time dispatcher with the Sturbridge Police Department. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
You've been here as long as us?
Yes, yes. Tonight, I bring in front of you Mr. Mark Whiting, wishing to get him appointed. He comes to us from, actually started back in 2020 as an intern with us, and then during his intern period, he showed interest in dispatching. While he was dispatching, while he was appointed part-time as a dispatcher, from there, he moved on and got his bachelor's degree in criminal justice and Spanish. And so it's a pretty good story that he's kind of moved up as an intern. This is our third intern that's come up and worked with us. So it's a great program that we have over there. So I'm asking that Mark be appointed as a one-year employee at a rate of $23.57 an hour. It benefits for a one-year employee.
Okay, anyone have any questions of Mark or the chief? Is there a motion?
I'll move to confirm the appointment of Mark Whiting as a full-time dispatcher with the Sturbridge Police Department, effective September 8th, 2021, at a starting salary of $23.57, and the benefits of a one-year employee.
I will second that.
Discussion. All in favor? Okay, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
Welcome aboard.
Have agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can only get better.
Smug look as everybody walks out.
Okay, consideration and action on selection of ACD Telecom as a consultant to the Radio Communication Committee. Okay, Jeff, you want to just quickly?
Yes, we put out a solicitation for companies to guide us during the evaluation and recommendation for the overhaul of the radio communication system. There were 4 companies that responded to the request for proposal. The Public Safety, or the Radio Communications Committee, reviewed all 4 proposals, scored all 4 proposals, interviewed ACD and Ross and Barunzi, reached out to the references for each, and based upon the feedback and the assessments from each of the members of the committee, is recommending ACD Telecom to be our consultant on the project.
Okay, questions from the board?
The amount for the consultant does not include tower site evaluation. So as we roll into using existing towers or evaluating other sites for tower locations if necessary, that's where the rest of those funds could come in, and ACD is asking for $6,500 per tower site assessment. That could include a full structural analysis and propagation study for each site.
So that doesn't include, this is just the site assessment?
Right, that's why when you look at the warrant articles, $170,000, we added funds to, we had these numbers before town meeting, so we added money to make sure we had tower assessments in the mix.
Okay, is there a motion then?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from ACD Telecom for emergency services radio system evaluation and technical support, and authorize the chair to sign a contract for the services.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay. Next, we have consideration and action on appointment of Jeff Bridges as municipal hearing officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under certain Massachusetts statutes, when a inspecting officer, such as a fire or a fire prevention officer or the building inspector, issues certain violations, there are municipal hearings to take place, and the town needs a hearing officer. I took that training a year ago, and we do have some issues coming forward, so I'm asking for appointment as the hearing officer to hear those citations.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Question, if that's all right. What are the present matters set for adjudication? You can speak broadly, probably better than specific.
It's on a derelict property where the owner has been unresponsive to demands for addressing some of the concerns.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is okay, that makes sense. Nothing else.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint town administrator as municipal hearing officer for the town of Sturbridge.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Speaking of that, Jeff, is that trailer truck gone?
No, Nelson Burlingame zoning enforcement officer doesn't find a violation since in his conversations with the owner of the property, that truck is holding certain elements that will be used for the renovation of the building. So that's going to be on site for a while.
Well, I haven't bitten my tongue all night, and I'm not going to bite it now. Would you please ask him to reread the signed bylaws?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
But he is, I brought that up to him, and he believes that that is not a sign, it's a tractor trailer with equipment for the owner to use in the renovation of the building.
It's a trailer with a sign on it.
It's commercially registered. It's signed properly according to the law. He's completing work there.
Not if you read our signed bylaw.
It's not a sign. It's not installed. It's portable.
No, it talks about signs on vehicles, which that falls under. Anyways, they should be a little more cooperative, but enough said.
Does it have the material in there that he claims it does?
I've not seen it, but Nelson had a conversation with the owner of the property, and it does.
Yeah.
That's the response we got from the owner.
Last time I saw a sign there was pretty frivolous. Sorry.
That falls under different category.
Sorry, Jason, couldn't.
A possible action on acceptance for authorization of the use of a donation to the Town of Sturbridge Veterans Department. This is a $25 gift to the Veterans Department from Clara Santullo, and in her letter, she did state that she wished it could be more, but she has the highest regard for veterans. Is there a motion to accept the gift?
I move to accept the gift.
I'll second Jamie's motion.
Very nice.
Discussion, all in favor? Okay. Next, consideration and possible action on the rejection of the bids for the Riverlands Flow Trails project. So if you read it, the Trails Committee requests the bids be rejected.
They have a plan to reduce the scope somewhat, which may bring the total cost within the amount of money available.
Right.
So we'll rebid it with a different scope.
Right, because they have a grant of $75,000 and both these were over $100,000. Okay, is there a motion then?
I'll-
Yeah, good.
I'll move to reject the bids.
I'll second that.
Discussion, all in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, next, new business. COVID update, Jeff?
We've resolved the issue, and we had a little bit of conversation about this earlier, the amount of funds, the budget will need for the ARPA funds, so the remaining funds are available for other uses. We began a process with the town staff about possible uses of the ARPA funds. Now we're going to generate the community survey, which we were looking to do, and present a possible list to the board.
Okay. Questions from the board? Comments?
Great.
Okay, Ian, any other old business?
No, ma'am.
Chase?
No.
Mary?
No. Can't even think, I'm so tired.
Ian? Jamie?
Yeah, that's me.
No, I was looking down at Ian.
No, I don't have anything else.
No, and I have none. New business? Ian? Chase?
No.
Mary?
No.
Jamie?
No.
Okay, correspondence. Chase?
Yes,
Lots.
we got added, right? We got a whole bunch today. August 11th, 2021, Building Code Enforcement Official Certification, letter from Kimberly Spencer, Program Coordinator of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Office of Public Safety and Inspections, to Mary Blanchard, Chair. August 12th, 2021, public notification of release abatement measure plan, Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, pad transformer, release 119 Main Street, Sturbridge, Mass. Mass DEP RTN 2-21041. Letter from Matt Abraham, Senior Project Manager, and Matthew Wagner, LSP Senior Environmental Scientist of Tie and Bond, to Jeff Bridges. August 13, 2021, Charter Communications, upcoming changes. Letter from John Mahar, Director of Government Affairs, to Jeff Bridges. August 19, 2021, volunteer and trail use data for the month of July. Data from Thomas Chamberlain, Trails Committee, to Jeff Bridges. August 27, 2021, Charter Communications, upcoming changes. Charter Communications, upcoming changes, Great American Country rebrand. Charter Communications, upcoming changes, POP, Smithsonian, CBS Sports. 3 letters from John Mahar, Director of Government Affairs, to Jeff Bridges. September 1st, 2021, the Dirt News from the Garden newsletter from Joe C., President of the Community Food Collaborative, to Jeff Bridges.
Okay, does anyone else have any other? I did get one from Massachusetts Town Clerks Association, and it's a press release also. Lynn Gerard, Town Clerk of Sturbridge, recently qualified for the Massachusetts Town Clerks Association prestigious CMMC Certified Massachusetts Municipal Clerk designation, and will receive her commemorative pin and certificate at the MTCA Fall Conference in Springfield, Mass. on September 23rd, 2021. Currently, only 118 of the Commonwealth's 301 active town clerks hold this designation. The CMMC designation is achieved by attending MTCA-sponsored educational courses and passing a 250-question aptitude test measuring the municipal clerk's knowledge of Massachusetts general laws in categories such as election and election procedures, vital records, campaign and political finance, town meetings, Chapter 40A, planning, Chapter 40, zoning, ethics, and public records. Lynn has been Sturbridge's elected town clerk for 4 years. Prior to her election, she served as recreation coordinator from 1997 to 2017 and Board of Health administrator from 2008 to 2016. She earned an associate's degree in science from LaSalle Junior College. In addition to the MTCA, she is a member of the New England Association of City and Town Clerks and the Worcester County Clerks Association. In addition, she continues her professional development through courses sponsored by the MTCA and the Secretary of Commonwealth's Election Division. Okay, so I think the board ought to send her a letter of congratulations.
Absolutely.
Jeff, can you?
We will take care of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
It's always nice to get nice correspondence. We haven't yet from Charter saying they're reducing any rates.
Or providing better service.
$5,000.
Well, actually, I guess it depends. No,
I agree with you.
Yeah, but it depends on where you live. I mean, knock on wood, ours has been good. It's the poor people that their electricity keeps getting knocked out. Jeff, you fall in that group.
Yeah, and they had the poor taste to send a survey asking if you liked their website where you could go and report your outage. I'm like, and I typed, your priorities are wrong if you're asking about the quality of your website.
You know,
right?
and the thing is, somebody on Facebook said, Farquhar Road, give us electricity. We don't lose it. We lost it that one night, but the lines feed through Southbridge. That's why.
Well, we get hung up on Mashpog Road. That's what we get.
Yeah.
Chase is in the same boat I am.
Yeah,
all the
because
time.
lines come through the woods there from Southbridge.
Yep.
So, live in the wrong part of town.
You guys, it's sweet over here. You never lose anything. Taking hot showers and the McGilpin Road, all the stops are.
Yeah. I know, those poor people, it's like every other day.
The sun shines too bright. You lose power.
Right.
Well, one gentleman had the perfect thing. He bought a generator, and he hasn't lost power since. He's afraid to plug it in. Okay, next we have the minutes of August 16th. Anyone have corrections, deletions, additions?
I have one sentence to add. All set, Alex? On the last page, the last page, the second paragraph starts Jonathan Silverstein, KP Law. Okay, at the end of that paragraph, add, M. Dowling asked Attorney Silverstein, or is it Steen, I don't know, if the pertinent statute required that the public hearing before the BOS occurs before town meeting on the zoning change. He responded in the negative.
Okay, public access? We get paid well. It's easy to add and subtract it. When you start with zero, you still wind up with zero. Okay, is there a motion?
No citizens forum?
No, they said no.
Oh, you're just here to,
Need a motion on the minutes.
that's
Oh, I
nice.
move to approve the.
Wow.
As written, as amended.
I thought you thought of something else.
I'll second Jamie's motion on the minutes.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
No, I move to adjourn.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
5-0.
All in favor? Mary, I feel bad for you.
Oh, yes?